Everyone. It's Elijah. Sup, everyone. It's Elijah with the Side Hustle Society. Hopefully, y'all are having a pretty good day, week, month. Just overall good in general. Real excited for today's episode because, as y'all know, we focus on lead generation for this season of the Side Hustle Society podcast. And a big part of lead generation can actually be networking. We meet people throughout our day to day lives. Either we become friends, associates, contacts, just various categories, if you will. But all this falls under the category of networking, whether we realize it or not. The only difference is people who network are doing it intentionally. So now that we know that, well, networking becomes a tool that we can use to generate leads, whether it be immediately if we just happen to have something that can serve their needs and things line up, or in the future when they can afford to buy things from us, or when we develop products and services in the future that then serve their needs. They'll already be in our network and know more about us. So it's that much easier to quote unquote close the sale. Joining us in today's episode is someone who I consider to be a super connector. I've seen him in action and he knows how to forge relationships just very fast the moment he enters in a room. And when I say very fast, I don't mean like he speaks 3 words and then a relationship is forged. I mean, the moment he enters the room, he gets to work on getting to know everyone, connecting everyone, and building rapport. That's one thing I respect about him. And to be honest, I was probably going to do this episode at some point solo because networking is so important. And I'm a serial networker myself. But it's great to have another person to bounce these concepts and ideas off of so that y'all can see from both of our experiences the benefits that networking really has. Those of y'all that watched my Vid Summit review, y'all probably will recognize him from the panel that we had, G-Wiz. But yeah, we actually met at a Vid Summit, so a networking event. And quite naturally, you could probably assume with us both being heavy networkers, we're going to cross paths eventually. His name is Gregory Rutledge, aka G-Wiz, and he is a high performance coach, empowerment strategist, and the visionary behind the Question Everything brand. He's not your typical speaker, he's the one who digs deep, asking the hard questions that others avoid, and shattering the limitations that hold people back. With a dynamic blend of raw personal experiences, transformational insights, and unapologetic honesty, Gregory helps coaches, creators, and business professionals unlock the power they didn't know they had. His journey spans from surviving life's toughest challenges to mastering UX design, entrepreneurship, and the art of storytelling. Now he's on a mission to show the world that real growth begins when you embrace your fears, confront your failures, and question the status quo. Gregory's signature approach combines high level strategy, focus mastery, and a relentless curiosity that inspires his audience to not just dream, but to rise, transform, and conquer. He's a coach who won't let you settle for average because he's walked the path from doubt to destiny and knows there's always more to discover. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and bring him on the show and get started.
Welcome to the Side Hustlers Society podcast, the place where you can find out more about the hustles that are best for you. And of course, make more money in the process. Elijah has been in the gig economy and freelance space for over 8 years and has done over 4,000 deliveries on Uber Eats. Has several video editing clients, many properties on Airbnb, runs multiple YouTube channels, and is the author of the best-selling book, The Anatomy of Financial Success. It's his mission to empower people with the tools needed to be successful. Now, welcome your host, the king of the side hustles, Elijah Bilel.
All right, G-Wiz, we're officially on. How's your day going so far?
And my day is fantastic. I've had time to spend with my children and my children's children. Yeah, went out to have some delicious ramen. My granddaughter's downstairs, so when this is over, I'm gonna cuddle her. Yeah, it's a good day. And I woke up today. That's a bonus.
Yeah, I guess we take that for granted too much, huh?
Hey, absolutely. It's the little things, man.
Right. How was the ramen?
We went to Wabi House in Fort Worth, and the ramen is good. The Karagi chicken is really why I go. Robin just happens to be there, but the Karagi chicken is my thing. Anything that crispy and that delicious should be illegal, and I'm glad it's not.
Got you. Okay. Huh. Yeah, I'm actually kind of curious. Do you think that that spot has any vegan options, like some kind of tofu, or not sure?
Oh, that's a good question. I know they had the veggie noodles, but a lot of their stuff, like the ramen is pork broth. I don't know if they have anything vegan, but I didn't check. Now
Hmm.
I feel bad. I forget.
It's
Sometimes,
not like you knew the check going into it. So, like, yeah, I could look it up, later. But I did get kind of curious since you did bring up food.
yeah, and we are foodies at the heart.
Right, right. So yeah, it's good to hear you've been doing well. You're what I like to call like a super connector, because when it comes to networking, I would say it's not that common to meet someone that really knows not only how to network but does it so good, so eloquently. And since we are focusing on lead generation on this season, I
Okay.
actually just recorded a podcast where I talked about sociality, building your social skills, and networking. So I think this is actually going to be a great follow up episode. But a lot of people just assume sales. They have this preconceived notion of when they sit down with someone, it's a complete stranger. They give their pitch and then they say yes or no. And that's hard sales.
Mhm.
That's fine. But I want to say the majority of life is really soft sales.
Yeah.
And these are when you're meeting people on an everyday basis. Then they get to know what you do. And then later on down the line, maybe they need your service or they may know someone that needs your service.
Mm.
And a lot of people don't picture that when they think of sales or just living life. They think of the hard sales, kind of like stereotype.
Yeah, the stereotypical door to door, cold calling. Let me just talk to as many people because people are numbers. And so the more people I talk to, the more odds I have of getting a person to say yes. So suffering through the nose. Yeah, there's some really bad teaching and thinking behind sales right now. And I love what Myron Golden's doing because he's undoing that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, everyone has an audience that they can specifically speak to. And there's some people that I can reach that he can't. And there's some people he can reach that I can't. And so I'm looking to start teaching people these better sales methods. Because really, we say sales, it's really just building connections. And you hit the nail on the head. It's not about the hard sales. It's about soft offers or not even sales, offers and soft offers. So you have, an offer that you're definitely giving someone, like, because they've been, I hate to say pre-indoctrinated, but they've kind of begun to know, like, and trust you. And so then you can make that offer because they've spent time with you, they've spent a little money with you, and they know who you are and how you do. And so they're kind of expecting you to make an offer. It almost is illegal or an insult for you not to make them an offer at that point. And then you have soft offers where it's like you get to know the person genuinely, right? And you find out what their problem is, and then you position yourself as the solution if you have one, or you connect them to someone else. Because we come into sales thinking that it's about us, and that's the wrong way of thinking. If it's about us, we have to convince them to get something from us because we need it or for our reasons. True sales is persuasion. We are helping people to make a decision they already wanted to make before they knew who we were. And we're just helping guide them to the best way to make that solution for them, whether it's with us or not. And even if you guide someone towards someone else and that person makes a sale, you still look like a star, right? It doesn't always have to end with you. But as long as you help them make a decision that helps them to grow and helps them be better, I think that's really what the goal should be in sales, is helping people.
Yeah. In fact, there's a quote from Robert Kiyosaki's one of his books on leadership, and people don't take this as an endorsement for Robert Kiyosaki. No, I'm just saying that I've read his books and I rock with a lot of his material, but I'm not endorsing the Rich Dad Company per se. But back to the point, he has this saying where in sales, if you've been through any kind of sales training, there's the ABCs that stands for always be closing. And that kind of fits into that stereotypical jargon that we just discussed.
Yeah.
But he has a different acronym that stands for always be caring. And if you're always be caring, you can direct them in the directions they need to go. Sometimes it's with you, sometimes it's with someone else.
Yeah.
And you can set a relationship with these other people that can compensate you for sending them their way. That way everyone benefits. And even if you don't have something like that set up, the universe is keeping track. So this is when you get a call out of nowhere, like, hey, I saw your webpage online. I saw that you had this service. I would like to get purchase it. And it's like that came out of nowhere. It really didn't. The universe is keeping score. It's giving back to you.
Yeah. Yeah. The universe is an echo chamber, right? If you scream out into the echo chamber, gimme, 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 what's that echo chamber saying back to you? Right. But if I say, how may I serve? That echo chamber is like, how may I serve? Right. So I love that you said that, because the first thing you said when I heard ABC always be closing, I was like, why don't we make it always be caring? That would be so much better. And then you said it. So I love that you brought that up, because I used to think I serve all these people. I was in 12-step recovery for a while, and I was very selfish. I was always focused on me and what my problem is. And then a lot of people, like predecessors, would be like, who have you served today? Who have you helped today? I'm like, how's that going to help me? Right? It's counterintuitive.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the thing, right? Everything that's intuitive, or everything that we know, we've been taught by a system that's programming us to be employees and slaves. But if you think outside of the box with like the principles that make this world go round, there's laws and principles and I want to say God's automation, or the universe's automation, right? The things that if I drop this towel, it'll always fall down. There's nowhere in the earth where this towel is going to fall up. That's because of the law of gravity, right? So all that being said, if I'm focused on helping other people, even if I don't get a monetary gain, like you said, the universe is keeping track. Everything I have now is a result of people I've served in the past, whether it came directly from them or it came from out of nowhere, right? I noticed this parallel when I was waiting tables too. I used to get mad when one table wouldn't tip me, and then that would affect my mood for so long until that last table, if I stayed around that long, to see that last table make up for that tip. And then I started seeing it big picture, right? Okay, this person left me 10%, this person left me 30%, this person left me 20%, but at the end of the day, the average was always like 25% overall. And then there were some people that left me none, but there were some people that left me so much they made up for most of them. And when you look at it from that, it's like, okay, let me just take every table I possibly can, stay as late as I possibly can. And before you know it, it's a numbers game, right? The more people I take care of, the more money I make, the more opportunities come my way, the better things get. So I love that you mentioned that is keeping track.
Indeed. I think that the table analogy for when you're working for tips is actually just a great analogy to summarize everything we just talked about.
Yeah.
But speaking of that, I suppose we could go ahead and go into, because even though we've read your bio, some people may want to hear from you. What do you officially do professionally? And I know you're working on a few things on the side. You have a few side hustles going. Given that we're the Side Hustler Society, feel free to kind of share what you do professionally and also like what you're building on the side.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that opportunity. So professionally, I'm a UX designer that's kind of transitioning into a role as a model-based systems engineer. What I want to do is bridge the gap between engineering and development, engineering and design. So there's always, it's a historical duality everywhere you go, right? Like if you're working as a server, there's day shift, night shift, front of house, back of house. There's always that tension between people. And in the tech world, it's the same. It's developers versus designers, or creatives versus more logical brain people. And
or sales people,
that part, right? Or marketing versus sales. Or there's call center versus warehouse, right? Like there's always, warehouse people versus corporate, right? Like they're always looking down or up at each other. And it's like, why have this either or duality mentality when you can have a yes and? I think the winners, the wealthy people, think yes and, right? It doesn't have to be either or, it can be both. And so where was I going with that? What was the question?
The question was, what do you do professionally?
So
and feel free to drop the side hustles too.
I'm bridging the gap professionally, trying to create a director level role for myself so that I can transition that out into what I do as a consultant, which is bridge gaps, connect dots, break silos. I help people to get in alignment, get some clarity around what it is that they're trying to do, and then give them an actionable plan. Because a lot of people have ideas, but they don't know how to bring it from up here in the ethereal world down to something that they can actually do. Now, don't ask me to do the same thing for myself, right? I need someone else to help me on that journey too. I can do it for myself if I sit and focus, but it's so much more fun, and it's always feels better when you can do it with a group of people. But I love, like, as people talk, the natural thing for me is to get a vision. The vision just kind of becomes clear. And then I ask so many questions until the only thing that remains is the solution. Like, you ask enough questions and there's no more confusion as to what needs to be done. It's just like it just appears. And not many people care enough to ask that many questions. They either think they're bothering them, or, you know, the stupid questions. I shouldn't ask this. It's a given, right? Of course we're talking.
There's a fear of ridicule.
Yes, that part. So couple side things I'm doing. I'm writing a book called From Waiter to Greater, how anyone can level up from right where they are. And it's got a 7-step framework in it. The greater is for a 7-step framework. That is available for pre-order. It should be ready by March 21st, maybe ready early, but if they pre-order now, they get the workbook and a bonus chapter about overcoming imposter syndrome. And then I have a group coaching that I built in a Facebook group right now. It's been going really well. We're on tomorrow will be week 9, and we've just been, you know, kind of uprooting these limiting beliefs and teaching people how they can level up and use this framework in all areas of their lives. So, a little bit of what I'm doing. There's more on the drawing board, but these are the things that are actually conceptual, or they've gone from concept to reality. They're happening.
Yeah, it's kind of the curse of being a creative entrepreneur, right? Like, you get so many ideas on how to do so many things, and it can be kind of hard to pull that out of yourself and at least get it to the concept stage.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we'll be sure to leave a link to sign up for his book in the description, and we're going to circle back to it later in the podcast. And will your book be coming out on Amazon when it's out or not?
So I was going to do a book funnel and not do it on Amazon so I could get 100% of my, profits. And part of me says, just for the first time, go ahead and go with Amazon. I do. Oh, that reminds me. I did a daily meditations book. It's a year worth of meditations of things to help you focus on for life and business. My wife and I gave her the idea. I gave her the vision, and she actually went and implemented it and wrote the whole book. So it took about 3-4 months, but she got it done. It's ready. So I haven't built a page for that, but I think that's the one I'll put on Amazon, and then the other one I'll just do a book funnel for it.
Got you. Okay. Well, regardless if it's on Amazon or not, if you're listening to this and it's after the book is out, we'll be sure to have a link in the description where you can grab it. But yeah, no problem. But I think that's a good segue into, and this is kind of, I like to call this the spicy part, because we live in a group, well, not a group, we live in a time where, this is everything, technology, phones, all that stuff. And that's cool. It has its pros, but I think a big con that comes along with it is a lot of people don't have enough interactions with just people in general. That they're starting to not know how to talk to people. And if you're going to be freelancing, and specifically we're going to talk about lead generation, if you don't know how to engage with people, how to talk to people, you're going to have a very short lifespan as a freelancer, and you're going to be back on a 9-to-5 pretty fast. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah. I can't stress enough how vital, how imperative, how foundational communication is and how much the pandemic just turned extroverts into introverts and introverts into, like, even introverts were getting over it. Like, I'm over this being disconnected. It was great like the first 3 months, and then it's like, crap, I'm home all the time. There's no balance, right? There's nothing to recharge from. But yeah, man, if you can't talk like that's one of the first things we learn how to do is communicate with sound. And you see how bad it is, like with these coming generations, like the abbreviations in the text. We went to Snapchat where like your messages disappear, so they don't even remember what they're talking about half the time. I try to get on Snapchat, talk to my older friends, and they're like reacting to something. 3 days later, I see it. The message has disappeared. I don't even know what we're talking about. They don't remember what they sent. Could you imagine freelancing like that? Yeah, I gave you a quote. Yeah, it disappeared. Oh, well. What is that?
That Snapchat example. I just never put two and two together, but that's so true. But it's kind of crazy. Like the whole concept of, like, where did that come from? Like the creators of Snapchat and the audience responds to this. So you can't blame the developers for trying something, and then y'all seem to like it, and it keeps going.
Right.
But like, is it, oh, I may have said something janky or stupid or whatever. Oh, well, it'll disappear in like a day, so it's not such a bad thing. Instead of like normally, okay, well, let me learn from that experience and maybe rephrase it differently last time. And then that's the skills that I've developed moving forward, even if it's just a little piece, a little bit a day, and it goes towards refining your communication skills.
Right.
The average person is robbed from that opportunity because there's no, it'll disappear in a day. And then they get to talking to someone in person. It's like, well, I don't have that safety cushion of being able to have like what's that Dragon Ball Super anime where one of the dudes has like the power to rewind time. Like that's not how real life works.
Nah. No, and like when you're interacting through your phone all the time, you have time to like formulate your message, and nowadays you can use AI to respond or come up with an answer for you. And you talk about being robbed of opportunities. I'm glad you brought that up, because in this PC culture, we're robbed of the muscle to hustle, and we're robbed of that opportunity to grow from adversity, because we're just removing all the adversity. Oh, that hurts you? You're offended? Let's just remove that thing.
Right.
Okay, so now instead of sanding the people down, we got this nice smooth terry cloth, and we're just wiping the ridges, and so the terry cloth gets ripped instead of you get formed, right? And so you're rough around the edges, and you can't fit into the way that the world works. The world has to fit around you. And then when life happens inevitably, because that's what happens, is life happens as it's always happened, you aren't prepared for that because you've been shielded in this bubble where life exists with no trouble. And so we rob you of the muscle to hustle. I didn't mean for it to be so poetic, but it's coming out.
It came out that way.
It just came out that way. Yeah, man. There's no... I experienced this myself. Using AI as an assistant turned into being addicted to asking AI questions, and then saving a bunch of Google Docs, right? Saving all my chats in Google Docs, and I'll get to that later. Oh, that's a great idea. I can create that later. And then at some point I realized that I can't think anymore. I need ChatGPT to help me think of ideas, because I feel like I can't do it by myself. And that's me at 41, growing up in the era before the internet, before AI. All of a sudden, I couldn't think for myself, and I was like, this is not okay. So I started literally getting out pads and writing stuff down again to like retrain that muscle. We have to embrace the struggles, the challenges, everything that comes for us, comes to us, comes against us, and learn how to reframe those and turn those into opportunities. Because every moment we remove struggle, we remain weak.
Yeah. And in that terminology, a lot of people are socially weak nowadays. I'll say this, then we'll kind of move on. But the AI and overusing it, I remember reading some reports. It was back when ChatGPT first came out. And
Yeah.
no, it wasn't reading. I heard it in a video. It's a guy named Cold Fusion, a guy from Australia. He makes amazing content. He was covering ChatGPT and AI and the consequences that could come about if this is abused. And he actually shared a study where dudes were using ChatGPT to get dates on Bumble. Then they would show up on the date and not have the mouthpiece to go anywhere. So it's like she was seeing a totally different person. Like I'm pretty sure that didn't end up working out. I just found that hilarious.
That is funny. I never even thought of that use case, but wow. And these are why rules exist, right? You read those rules on the window where it's like no shoes, no shirt, no service. Well, somebody must have done that for them to have put that there.
Right. But yeah, I suppose some people may be saying, the convo is a little too philosophical. Let's put some concrete examples in there. And that's actually fair. So I think a good place to start would be the scenario where we met at, which was a Bit Summit. That's at an event that a lot of times events are great networking opportunities because they're conduit to bring people together that usually have a similar outcome that they want to achieve. And to be honest, some of these seminars and some summits are expensive. So if you're there, you have money, clearly, or you have ambition if you scraped up the money to get there in the first place.
Right.
So I would ask you, like, when you see someone like you would like to talk to, like at some event like this, or just any event in general, how do you go about initiating a conversation with them when you're at this event?
So I'm glad you asked that because I feel like from the outside looking in, it looks like it's just so easy for me to just walk up to people and create a group of people that, are connected. But I too still to this day suffer with that kind of, there's an imposter that says, I don't belong in this crowd. I'm at Vid Summit for the first time. I don't know anyone here. These people have millions of followers. These people are doing this. These people are showing up on YouTube. So if I come and talk to them, what's the chance they're going to even talk back to me, right? They're too busy. They're too famous. They're too important for me. So when I came to Vid Summit, the first person I ran into was a friend of mine named Deluxe. Well, he goes, I think his name is DJ, but where I met him, he went by Deluxe because he was in a rap school. So that was like the icebreaker. And then he started introducing me to people and I was like, oh, okay. So it's just like any other event. I just find out something I want to know about this person, which is usually their name, because we have all this noise around us that our brain blocks out. But to get through to someone's attention, their name is the most important thing. Like if I would have said, hey, you in the vest, would you have heard that, right? Amongst everything else, like it's tuning that out. But I say, hey, Elijah, who knows my name, right?
Yeah.
So the first thing I ask is the name. Then I ask them a little bit about what they do. I either compliment like a shirt, shoes, something they're wearing, something I overheard in the conversation before I ever stepped over to them, because I just can't help but hear everything around me, ADHD. And then as I'm learning about them and they start learning about me and I see someone that looks like they want to get in the conversation, but they're not quite sure, I understand that feeling. And so I'm like, hey, you come here, meet this person. And then I repeat that person's name, tell them a little bit about them, and then ask them that. And once them two have introduced and I've got those names in, and I just keep repeating that until I've got like 3, 4, 5, 6 people around me. And now I know a bunch of people. They know each other. They most likely were probably afraid to talk to each other or anyone else, or feeling that same feeling I was feeling. And I created a little community around me of people that know each other. Now they can travel throughout that thing with a familiar group of people. And then once I see that they have made they've established their thing, I've never been the type to be in groups and stay there. So then I'm like, okay, these people are cool now. Let me go try that again. And I just build little pods. And it's so much fun to do because it's like, you sit back after a while after you built like 5 or 6 pods and people were really like hitting it off. And you just kind of watch like, dang, I did that.
I really wish I had this clip. If I had a crystal ball and I could see you were going to bring that up, there's the clip of Thanos at Endgame. Which says, he's been asked like, what do you do once you completed this? Well, I sit down and rest on knowing that I created a grateful universe or something like that. I'm paraphrasing. I don't remember it exactly.
And then what?
I finally rest and watch the sunrise on a grateful universe.
Yeah.
But that clip is so abused in like various YouTube videos to illustrate a point, and it would have fit perfectly here. But that's how you're feeling once you create these pods or crews of people, right?
Yeah. And the bonus, here's the bonus. You go to an event you've never been to before, and you start doing you start with the people that are hosting the event, and then you move to build another pod. And one time when I met my friend Misty, I'm sitting at a table. I got two people here, and then everyone that I saw came in for the first time to this space. I was like, hey, you come here. And so it ended up being like 15, 20 people. And I was going around in circles, reciting all the names, introducing to the new person. And everyone was just like, wow. And so when we go into the room for the meetup to start and I sit down with them, they're like, I thought you were the host. I thought this was your meetup. And I'm like, oh, no, I don't even know what we're doing here. I'm about to learn with y'all. And it was just so funny because once you do that, people just see you in all these pods and you're the one creating them. And so you become an interesting person. And I don't even do it for that. That's just a bonus. So if you could take anything from that, the TLDR, create connections, genuine connections, be genuinely curious and empathetic about the people you meet, and you may find a lot more in common than you thought you had, whether it's the fears of getting to know people, something you do, a hobby you have, some other people you know, you might go to add each other on LinkedIn or Facebook and see, oh, we got 35 mutual friends. How are we not friends, right?
Right. This is actually kind of giving me flashbacks of how the Veggie Outers got started, to be honest. Most of my audience already knows what the Veggie Outers is, so I'm not going to re-explain what it is. But a lot of meetup groups nowadays, they're spoiled with, Meetup and Facebook, which Facebook reworked their algorithm to accommodate Facebook groups and events.
Yeah.
But back when the Veggie Outers got started, none of that stuff existed. So it got started by literally me going to events and basically being, well, I'm not going to say business Cupid because that's something different. But I guess I'll just say social Cupid by basically talking to people, kind of selling them on the idea of the plant-based lifestyle. Have they tried vegan food? And I would get these, it would start with like me and another person. And before you know it, I would invite other people to join the conversation. Because when you're the one that's energetic and giving information, there's a certain allure that people can feel. That they start hovering around. Like, you ain't got to hover around. Let's join the conversation.
Yeah.
And before you know it, that's how the group originally got started. And it is a skill, but it's a skill that you can develop. I think too many people, they're associated with just a personality trait, like either you have it or you don't.
Right.
Some people do have it naturally, but you can develop it.
Sorry, I'm trying to get this air on me. It's a little toasty in here. Yeah, I'm really glad you said that because I think we just associate, like I'm an introvert, you're an extrovert. I can't do what you do, you can't do what I do. Or I'm drained by people, you're energized by people, right? Or the other way around. I think everything we do is a habit. Like if you do it enough times, no matter what it is, good or bad, you're going to form a habit from it. And so growing up in my family, I was already extroverted by nature. Like I just love to be loud and get attention, all that stuff. But I was beat and reprimanded because, children are to be seen and not heard, only to speak when spoken to, go sit down somewhere with all that noise. So it just kind of makes you go inside and you feel like I felt like I was conditioned to be quiet and be in the corner and not people. And so I always felt guilty peopling or being the center of attention. And so it started coming out as like me acting out. But when you get to be an adult, you have to go out there and be in the world. You learn about sales jobs because, you're trying to get your way make your way in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And you find out what really works for you. But the beautiful part for me, I've become an ambivert. I can be recharged sitting in this room alone with no music, no screens on, and just be okay with myself. But you put me in a crowd of people, I could be energized by that too. So I can recharge either way, but it took some action. Like it took getting out of my comfort zone, which my comfort zone had been introversion because that's what I was used to. It wasn't what I was energized by, but it was just what I was used to. But I was always angry because I was drained, because I was alone, because I'm naturally charged up by people. But at the same time, if I'm charged too much by people, that actually ends up draining me because I don't have time to process all that's happened with these people. So I think that if you force yourself to do hard things, if you make yourself do what you're uncomfortable with doing, you get new layers to yourself, right? Like there's just something about being able to do what's uncomfortable long enough for a new habit or a new skill to be learned or acquired.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could definitely see that. In fact, in financial anatomy lingo, and we did a podcast on this, so it'll be coming out. It's it's actually already out. But I put that in the category of boldness. And some people are more bold than others. But it's kind of the foundation of developing any skill set and developing new habits. Because if something is intimidating to you, I'm not going to reiterate the whole show, but I tell everyone they need to make a phobia list, and you need to make 4 categories. And those categories are, first you decide what your undertaking is. And then the phobia list, the categories are somewhat uncomfortable, very uncomfortable, extremely uncomfortable, and phobic. And every time you encounter something that you're hesitant to do that's in the way of your undertaking, categorize it in one of those 4 categories. Before you know it, you're going to have a list and gradually start working your way up the list. You don't have to start with the most phobic thing, but start with something that just makes you just a little uncomfortable and just start working your way up. You build your confidence level up. But there is a hack. That dangerous stuff that you see people doing in the movies, or like the things that you're scared of, like zip lining or snow skiing or stuff like that. This is something you can do to have fun. But if you do stuff like that on a regular basis, maybe 3 or 4 times a year, when you come back to reality per se, or the real life, you look at that phobia list, like, you know what, this stuff that I'm phobic about, it moved down 2 tiers. This ain't it.
Yeah, you're building that muscle. And just, I remember a quote back in, I won't go through all the details. Let's just say the quote said, do one thing every day that scares you, Eleanor Roosevelt. And I thought, I'm like 20-something-year-old me. I ain't scared of nothing. I'm a man. I can hold my boy. Let me tell you, Elijah, I was afraid to eat in front of people, chew in front of people, walk in front of people, run in front of people. Like anything that involved people, I was scared, deathly afraid of. But I didn't until I had the awareness, right, that someone was challenging me through a bumper sticker quote, literally, to do one thing every day that scared me. That I realized I was scared of everything. And so I tried it, right? Let me just go to a restaurant, get a table for one, sit there amongst people, and then eat and not worry about who's watching me. And it was so uncomfortable the first time. I was like, oh my God, everyone's watching me. Like I had my menu up and I'm just sitting there eating, like hoping no one looks at me. And it only made people look at me more. So the next time I went to a new restaurant, right? Because now that one's burned. I can never go back there ever again, right? I go to the next one. I try it without the menu. And then I start to look around and I'm like, you know what? They're probably more afraid of me than I am of them. And so I try to lock in eye contact and just look at people. And as soon as we would lock eyes, they'd look away.
Look down or look away.
Oh, this is cool. Okay, so if I just act like I'm confident, then I just like win by default. And so it started becoming intoxicating, and it went from just do one thing every day that scares you, to, if anything scares you, face it head on so that nothing can hold you back. Because when you have nothing to fear, right? Like when there's nothing that scares you, you are literally limitless. Like there's no obstacles.
Right. Or the only obstacle that's in your way is if you don't know something, and you can always learn something. But if you master the art of boldness, then that's the only thing that's holding you back. And we're always, life is a process. Life is nothing but learning. So you're doing that by default anyway. So it really just opens up all these possibilities and opportunities.
Yeah. I like how you said the only obstacle is not knowing something. But if you practice boldness, you could be bold enough to say, you know what, that's a good question. Or, you know what, I don't know that. I would love to learn. Right. And now, not only have you been humble enough to let someone know that you don't know, right, which is taboo, right? When you're trying to act like you're confident, you don't want anyone to know you don't know. But I think that's the start of accumulating knowledge, to understand and assimilate the knowledge, to turn it into wisdom, is just admitting you don't know.
Oh yeah, it's the first step.
Huh?
It's the first step.
Yeah, first step is just admitting I don't know. And second step is realizing that there's someone else that knows besides you. And third step is surrendering to the fact that I'm probably just going to have to suck it up and learn from them, read about it, watch a video about it, ask a question, ask the stupid question, right? Because there's no stupid questions really. Unless you ask the same one twice in a row and then like, yeah, get out this room, dude.
Well, I'll say this and then we'll move on to the next question. Everything you mentioned is a learned behavior when we're adulterated or we become adults. But everything you mentioned, children don't really have it. They're just naturally inquisitive, natural, ask questions just because they're genuinely curious, and they don't have any ego because they haven't been here long enough to develop one. It's kind of interesting how, in order to succeed as adults, we kind of got to go back to our childhood habits if we're going to be honest.
It is very interesting. And I love that you brought that up. There's a African proverb. I can't find it. I just know my mentor told me about it. But the proverb says, everyone's been a child, but no one's ever been an adult. And what I got from that, what I heard when I heard that was, nobody knows what they're doing, right? Everyone is a kid playing adult. You remember when we were kids, we'd be like, let's play Office. And then we'd have some paper, we'd have pens, and like, I'm doing reports. And you'd put and then like, let's play cashier. We got the little Fisher Price cashier set with the little funny money. And like, that's what we're doing when we really get into a job, is like, let's play server. Okay, what do we do? Well, people are here to eat, so I guess we got to ask them what they want to eat and drink, and then we got to go do that, right? And then you just learn. But most times we learn by watching other people, right? Or mimicking. And this is where like culture is grown. We just kind of get into a place and we want to come in there and do what's right or what the handbook says. But then you just kind of look around and see what other people are doing. And you're like, oh, we can do that. Oh, we shouldn't do that. And then you just kind of fit in. But it's really interesting that we think there's like this degree, this level, this place we have to get to as adults, right? So that we can, like, we think we have to have something in order to do something so we can be something. And really, we just have to be. We have to be the person that we are, that only we can be. We got to do the things that, we've learned to do or that we know are best to do in the situation we're in. And then you can have whatever you want to have. But it all comes from that being. And like, we're all children. But like, no matter how old we get, how old we look, how old do you feel? Do you feel your age, or do you feel like you're still 14, 15, 16, 18, right? Like, right. I still feel like I'm my kids' age and they're in their 20s now. There's 5 kids in their 20s. And I'm like, when I go out, people are like, oh, is this your brother and sister? I'm like, I wish. Then I could just send them home to mom.
Oh my gosh.
No, I'm playing. I love my kids.
That's funny.
Yeah, man, it's wild how simple life is and how complicated we've made it.
Right. In fact, that kind of is a good tie into this next question. I think people overcomplicate this by having an unnecessary mental conversation. But the question I asked, let's take that same question and apply it to a different scenario. So instead of you like meeting someone at a networking event, like when you see someone you like to talk to just out and about, let's say at the grocery store, for instance, how would you go about initiating a conversation with them? I mean, do you have a different process or is it something similar? Because obviously that scenario is different from like something like a bid summit or a conference. I would categorize that as a warm market. So you can literally, and I've done this several times, like there's a group of people talking. Well, I can walk in the middle of the group and say, hey, y'all mind if I join in on the conversation? Oh, yeah. Then I just listen to what they're saying. Then I just give my commentary on the conversation. And chances are the conversation is somewhat related to what we're all there for. So it's easy to just penetrate that conversation, join in. But what do you do when you meet someone one-on-one out and about, let's say at a grocery store, and you would like to potentially forge that relationship?
So it's an interesting process. And when you say it, I started to see kind of like, some different scenarios where I've met people that are still my friend today or still in my group of people, right? My sphere. It's all contextual. Like, let's say you're standing in the line and they're there. You can tell they're kind of uncomfortable waiting, but they're holding a magazine and you just read what it says on the magazine and be like, are you interested in this thing? Or what story drew you to that magazine? Or I love your shoes. I love your hair. Like just complimenting something, usually starting with a compliment or like interjecting into a conversation. Let's say it's like a mom, husband, or husband, wife, and kid. And like the kid says something funny and you just kind of play on those words and get in the conversation, or you just have the conversation with the kid. It's really all about the environment where you're at. Like I always try to go PG, right? Like PG or self-defamation or not self-defamation.
What it literally stands for, PG, parental guidance.
Keep it G rated. Yeah, that's what I meant. Keep it G. Keep it G. Just general audiences. So high level dad joke, something funny, something corny. Like I embrace my dorkiness, right? So it really just depends on where I'm at, but I try to keep it as genuine as possible, right? Like I'm not trying to hit on women.
The G also stands for genuine. Okay.
Yeah, there we go. Genuine, general, grateful, right? Just reciting what you're grateful for to the next person. Something about gratitude, no matter what circle I'm in, whether it's recovery, like some kind of networking event. If you're on a Zoom and it's like, what's one thing you're grateful for? I'm gonna pass the mic around to everyone. By the third or fourth person, everyone's crying and everyone is just so happy. And I'm like, I don't know how that works, but I love it every time. Like it's never fails. So it depends. Like give me a couple situations. Like, and actually, I'll do this. So there was Comic-Con or like anime convention that was happening today in Fort Worth.
Really?
We were eating at Wabi House and we saw a bunch of people dressed up as soon as we got up the stairs to go to Wabi House. And I was like, looking at my kids, I'm like, we should go talk to them. And they're just like, no, like they're just clammed up, right? And I was like, all right, I'm gonna go ask. So it's like, hey, I'm so curious. Who are you? And so this person here is like Tails. I'm Sonic. I'm Shadow. I'm just Goth Girl. And this is Amy. Like, okay, cool. This is really cool. So what are y'all dressing up for? Like, is this just for fun? Do y'all do this? Like, is this how you go out to eat? Because that's cool. I want to be part. Like,
That's pretty eccentric.
So many questions, right? And so it's just like at some point, I can see that they were a tight knit group, and I was the weirdo, and so I just thanked them at that point and walked away.
Mm-hmm.
That's obviously like if I had something to sell, that's not my target audience at that moment. Or we're just not meant to mesh, but I did learn something. I learned that there's an anime convention going on. I learned that they're all a friend group that loves to do that thing and they have no shame in it. and I learned that we have something in common. We both like Sonic, right? It doesn't always have to result in a sale or, you know, a permanent connection, but that interaction, they could take it back to their life. And it's like, there's this really weird guy with dreads and like look like a grandpa. He just asked us about us, but like nobody does that. Why would he ask us about us? Like every interaction we make, we don't know how what we do or what we say is going to affect people. So imagine this on the flip side, right? You're in line, you're having a bad day, someone's behind you and they just happen to lock eyes with you and you say, what the F are you looking at, right? Because you're having a bad day. I haven't had this happen to me since I was in like my early teens where I was just an angry person. But just imagine that person that's just hot-headed. Everywhere they go, they're taking it out on other people. And then the cashier, you're so slow, you're an idiot. Do you know how to do your job? And you're just like berating them. And that person could have been thinking, man, I really hate life. I just want it all to end and I'll probably do it after work. And now instead of it being that first scenario where, you know, you could uplift and motivate and make someone feel better, now you've taken that same energy and you've turned it negative, and you could potentially risk someone not being here anymore. Like, it's so powerful what we do or what we say when we're dealing with other people. And like, the best thing we can do is be kind, right? Because we never know what anyone's going through. So I just love to have fun. And that's what I do, is I go out and I have fun with people.
Okay. One thing I do often, and I can tell based on what you said that you do this too. If there's someone I want to talk to, I do what I call reacting out loud. So I find something that's next to us, or like you gave the magazine example. That's actually a great example. But let's say if there's someone and they're in the vegan food section. So clearly I know we probably have veganism in common, or they have an interest in veganism. And I'm right next to them. I might react out loud as I'm looking at this like veggie meat, like, well, you know, I wonder if this tastes good. It looks like it tastes good, but it doesn't. And then they look at me like, oh, were you wondering the same thing, sir? Well, you know what? I was actually kind of curious about vegan, you know, eating vegan food. So I found myself here, but I've never actually tried any of this stuff. Well, I can't vouch for this, but I have tried just this. Before you know it, I'm in a conversation.
Yeah.
It's because I reacted out loud.
Yeah, as soon as you said reacted out loud, you know, my brain takes it to the extreme. And I'm just picturing you there, someone else is there, and you're like, wow, that's a low price.
That could work too. I mean, whatever. There's several ways that could be mixed. But I will say it's important to, you know, look at a person's body language, look at what they're saying back. And if you're getting like short answers like yes and no, that means that they're not interested in engaging further. Like, oh, it's nice talking to you, and you have a nice day.
Yeah.
And if they're very chatty and asking you questions back, that's someone that's open to engaging further. So you know where to go from there.
Yeah.
But this is how you meet people.
And I mean, I can't tell you how many opportunities have come just from meeting people. Like, when they say your network is your net worth, I'm living proof of that. You can literally get rich by changing the people you hang around. Now, I'll also say this: if you're planning to get rich by changing the people you hang around, make sure that you're reading financial books like The Anatomy of Finances, or a financial anatomy book that Elijah wrote, reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad, reading, you know, Money Master of the Game, Tony Robbins, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, Think and Grow Rich. Like, read something that's going to tell you. Trash Man to the Cash Man by Myron Golden, right? Like, read something that's going to tell you the real purpose of money and how you can nurture and grow your money, because the purpose of money is not to buy things or pay bills. It is to make more money, right? You got to be buying income producing assets. I went from $213 an hour to making $250,000 a year, and I still live check to check because I did it all wrong. If I could do it all over again, I would apply the things that I've learned since. And so now my dilemma is trying to create more income so that I can manage better, because more is going out than is coming in. So I had to just put that in there just for anyone that like wants to change their net worth so that they change their net worth, but still don't know how to manage the worth they have now. Look, if you don't know how to manage a little bit of money and you get a lot, you're just going to be worse with a lot more money. But I said all that to say, like this conversation, this podcast right here wouldn't have happened if I didn't have the conversation with you. If I didn't pull you into, I don't even remember how we, whether I.
You were talking to David, and me and David had the astrology, and me and David had met the day before. So I walked up to David and said, "What's up?" And it was you, Dijon, David.
Yes.
And I had met Dijon and David before, so I walked up like, "Yo, what's up?" And since you were there, I don't remember which one of us spoke to each other first, but we both knew, like, look, it's rude to talk, either enter a group of people and not talk to everyone, or if someone joins the conversation, not talk to them. So one of us ended up talking to the other, and then you mentioned like Myron Golden's group, and boom.
Okay. I knew it was right around that time on day 2.
When it comes to people, I don't forget anything. I'm one of those people. I don't know why I've always been that way. I guess I have a good social memory.
As you're describing it, I'm seeing it, but I end up in so many networking events and so many groups of people, and I don't know, man, like my text thread is ridiculous. Like I can just like this for hours and it's just still conversations. And some days I just don't respond to anyone.
And that's part of the reason I'm not really a texter, to be honest. I'm a talker. I actually put something out on Facebook, basically because I was getting too many messages. There's people I will text, but the thing is, these people, they're like me. They'll text if the total amount of texts for that day is going to be like 5 texts together, not like 5 texts each. Like the total conversation is 5 texts. It's more them like just updating me on something. If they want to talk, they're going to call me or I'm going to call them.
Right. It's so much easier.
Yeah. And I just kind of put a message out there on Facebook, my Facebook story, saying like, look, I am a talker, y'all. I'm not a texter. It doesn't mean I don't want to talk. But here, I actually put my number out there. I have 2 numbers. I have a Google Voice number and a personal number. I put a Google Voice number out there. Like, look, if you want to call, let's chop it up. But texting actually drains me for whatever reason. I can't really say why. Well, I think it's because people excite me. And if I'm not going to be talking to the person, hearing their tone, hearing what they're feeling, etc., then it's already kind of energy draining. And then you got to think of, well, the texting. I know people are thinking this isn't an anti-texting bash podcast. I'm going to get back on point and say, but you have to think about how are they going to take it, because the tone can be misinterpreted. You got to master the art of using these emojis to convey the right tone. And then like some of these people, they'll spend like it's like a mini book. Like boom, paragraph. I'm like, whoa. Do you have time to talk?
Right. I'm not reading that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I don't even know how you managed to type all that. It would have been easier just to call me and say it.
Yeah. They're either using voice to text or, they do just prefer to do that, because then like, you could still be watching your movie and scrolling Facebook on your iPad and on your phone, right? That's where we're at today. People have to be stimulated by multiple things. I think it's funny you mentioned that. I used to be one of those people that, and this is still on topic because we're still talking about networking and communication and people. You brought up the part about tone, right? I don't know about you or the listeners, but when I read someone's text message, especially from like a boss or a superior, I'm reading it in the worst tone I've ever heard them say something in. That's just where my brain goes. It's like, did you do the thing? And they could be like, did you do the thing? And it's like, because of how I feel about it or my view of how that person talks, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't like texting either. I do it, but I use voice to text or like just something real quick. or copy and paste, right? Because like a lot of people ask the same question. So I'm just like, I got something for that right here.
No, I think we just had a breakthrough. I
Mm.
think it could be summarized like this: the texting thing, the interpretation is dependent on the projection of the relationship we have with a person. And it's whatever the strongest emotion is. So you said what you said about like your boss.
Yeah.
But to some degree, you might be scared of your boss because they have the potential to fire you. So that's projecting you, even though that might not be the case.
Right.
And it's interesting because, like, I guess now that I'm thinking back, there's been scenarios where like I've had text exchanges with women, and I know they like me, and they may take something that I said and as validation, like, oh, he does like me. Like, she heard me say it. She could tell that's not necessarily the case, but the tone isn't in there. So she's projecting how she feels onto the text that I said when that's not necessarily the case. This is why texting is inferior to just talking to someone. And talking to someone is inferior to being in someone's face. But that's a compromise that we have to make because of the society we live in. We're all busy.
Yeah.
But we can do something about the texting compromise. Let's give them a call.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's funny. It's not just in texting that we project, right? Like how I experience the world is completely up to what my paradigm and my mindset is. Like, what were my experiences? What's my background? What are my beliefs? Beliefs are the most important thing. We will never behave inconsistently with something we believe. If I believe money is the root of all evil and money is only for if I believe that money is evil and that only like morally corrupt or evil people have money, right? Like, think about this. You're trying to get into a relationship with a woman, but you think she's evil. Do you think that either one of you are going to want to either start the relationship or continue it? Right. And so we wonder why we're broke. And it's like, I hate money. Money's not everything to me. Okay. If you'll lie about that, you'll lie about anything. If money wasn't so important to you, you'd be on the streets, homeless, or living somewhere in the mountains off the grid. But the reality is we spend a third of our lives working for that very thing. Right. So like, how could money not be everything if it's like the main, like, if you don't have enough, what do you got to do? You got to get another job. You got to get a side hustle. You got to Uber. You got to Lyft. Like, you got to do something to make it happen because it makes the world go round. Right.
Right.
So just, yeah.
Just an observation.
Just an observation.
Okay.
I don't remember what brought me there.
But well, it gradually moved that direction, but I suppose we'll steer back on course. So like since we were talking about communication, if when you're talking to someone, and different people have different tactics for this, but let's assume that you are in sales and you do have a product that you want to offer. When you're talking to someone and the conversation is going good, you build rapport. Do you ever steer the conversation in the direction to get a potential sale or like a call to action you want them to do, whether it be joining a Facebook group or whatever? Or do you just save that for a later time in your relationship with them in the future?
I don't know if I should give away my secret, but my kids have picked up on this over the years. So I'll tell you a story about when we went to Victoria's Secret. So my daughter we went to the outlet mall. She needed some bras from Victoria's Secret.
Okay.
And we go in and I find the manager and I start talking to her and I start complimenting her and I start asking her questions. What's the favorite part of your job? Love your nails. I love your hair. Love your vibe. Love the decorations in the store. And I just kept pouring the compliments and asking the questions. And before long, she's like, man, y'all are so nice. Y'all are so pleasant, because most customers are not. Yeah. And so she's like, anything y'all need, like really, seriously, guys, anything at all, just let me know. And we're like, we're actually looking for some bras and potentially some panties too, but I don't know. It's up to her. I'm just dad, right? And so she's like, oh, sure. Come here, honey. And she takes her with her and she shows her. And she was like, I was looking for this, but she's like, oh yeah, when you don't see it, go under here. And here's some new ones. And she starts bringing ones out that weren't on display. And then we get to the register after this whole personal shopping experience, I didn't know actually that she was a manager. I just looked for the person that I can compliment the most, or that looked like the most interesting person in there. And come to find out, she was a manager. She gave us a manager discount. And we ended up getting like everything for under $50. She got like a whole new undergarment wardrobe, and like I asked her if she could try it on before she left, and she's like, "Oh, trust me, you don't need to." And she taught her the sizing system. But all of that to say, become obsessed with the other person, asking questions, being genuinely concerned about them, and asking enough questions to find out if anything you even have to offer is a fit for who they are. You qualify them with those questions and those compliments. And at some point in the conversation, they're going to get so uncomfortable with being poured into, cared for, listened to. They're going to ask, "Oh, you're so amazing. What can I do for you?" "Oh, well, I wasn't really expecting anything, but now that you ask, I do have a book, an upcoming book, or I do sell, these products, and I think it'd be great for that thing you mentioned earlier. But it's there if you want it. That's not what I'm here for. I just was genuinely curious about you." And it just evolves. So it just really, like you said, you get to kind of read the body language, read the person, but is it the appropriate time? Should you connect and go deeper later? What is the purpose? Not that everything has to have like an end goal, right? But is there synchrony? Is there chemistry here? Right? So you just kind of read it, but it's something that comes with experience, right? Like you're not just going to go out there and try this one time and master it. Probably going to fumble, probably going to be awkward. It's probably not going to feel like you. So if I can tell anyone anything to help them, if they were going to apply this, it's just be you. Be you, be curious, be empathetic, and see where it leads.
Nicely put.
Thank you.
And it's one thing to hear that, but I've seen it in action. So I think it was the Mediterranean spot where you did talk to them, and by the end of the night, I remember I was doing the reviews, and you managed to give me free cauliflower because I do remember that. So I've seen this happen in person.
Yeah, it was great. I remember that. I think they were cleaning up and they threw away your cauliflower, and you're like, "Nah, it's okay. It's my fault. I should have been paying attention." I was like, "No, I'll go get you some more." He's like, "No, really, don't do it." I'm like, "No, watch this. This is great." So I go over there. I compliment homegirl. I tell them how much I love the restaurant and how great they are, and I love how they're taking initiative to clean up early. I said, "But there's a problem. I don't want to be that guy. Just don't fault me for being that guy." But in the process of being so amazing, y'all accidentally threw away my boy's cauliflower. So I was just wondering, you can tell me no, I'm annoying. Could you give him some? Oh yeah, no problem. We'll definitely. And I was like, that always works. It's almost like just reversing, right? Instead of coming at them in a way that's going to make their defenses come up, it's like, come at them in a way that's going to make them wonder why they haven't done something for you sooner. Right?
You know what? That's an interesting take, and I've seen it work. I've seen the other way work too. I'm not saying do this, but the offensive way, if this was a more, I guess, serious outcome, but I do remember getting the brakes worked on on my car at the time. And they told me it would be done by a certain time. And this was back when I was heavy into like the Ubering and Lyfting.
Yeah.
Because I needed content. And yeah, rush hour, like the hottest time to do it is between the hours of 3 and 7. And I purposely went there like around noon so that this would for sure be done by 4 o'clock. Yeah. Even if I missed like 1 hour, I could live with that. But it was done by like 5:45, like the sun was in the process of going down, and they had told me it would be finished by a certain time, but otherwise I just wouldn't have. Okay, I'll just come back another day. And they failed to meet that deadline that they promised themselves. It was like an hour and a half over. And I basically explained the whole situation to the manager, like, and I broke it down step by step. Like, look, I'm an Uber driver, okay? And I told y'all this before I even pulled in, and y'all said y'all be able to get it to me at this time. It's now an hour and a half later. Now people are getting off of work at 3, and the hot time ends at 7. It's 5:30 now, so I only have 90 minutes to make just a little bit of that money. Now, my question to you is, what can we do to make this right? Well, so I can give you a 10% discount. Okay. But your method is much more universal. So use G-Wiz's method.
I mean, it depends really. Like, there's some people that won't fall for my method. Some people are just like, I'm not entertaining you, clown, right? So they need the more logistical, here's step by step, what can we do to make this right? I'd word it differently, but I'd use yours. I've used that one too. It's like, listen, I don't want to cause problems, but here's what happened. Here's how I feel about it. Here's how I used to be, but it, 9 anger management classes later, I don't flip tables anymore. So I just want to peacefully handle this. What can we do to make this right? I'm thinking 20% sounds good, but if 25 is on in your mind, then I'll take 25. They laugh, I get 15, right? Or they're like, don't worry about it. But you really, like, anything that we are telling you today is a guess for you, right? Until you test it, until you experience it, you won't know what's going to work for you. And so
You land your plane there?
Huh?
You land your plane there?
Yeah. My challenge is just, go out there and try. Go out there and have fun trying something you've never done before. Get in the zone of being uncomfortable. People are uncomfortable because we're not used to them. And we see all these things on the news about how horrible people can be.
And in movies, if we're going to be honest, a lot of this stuff is indoctrination. It's so dogmatic, I'll say.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the world's not like that. At least my experience with the world is not like that.
Nice.
Go ahead.
Oh, I stand nicely put.
Thank you. Even in my worst of days, there were times back in the day where I was in places nobody should ever be, doing things that nobody should ever be doing, and I still found cool people there. Like, there's a lot of talented people that have been hurt, that have, we get the school system that judges a monkey by how it swims in the ocean and a fish by how it climbs a tree, and then you make the monkey feel like it's wrong because it doesn't know how to swim and breathe underwater, and you make the fish feel like it's dumb because it can't climb a tree and swing from the branches. Well, you got people operating in the wrong place. Like, we're not even starting the game, and you're starting the game 5 steps ahead, or the race 5 steps ahead. And so when we race, of course I'm behind, because I'm not even in the right race or in the right place. And so if you're feeling like, you're struggling with this, don't feel bad. It's not your fault. But once you're aware, right, you have the option to do something about it or continue living in that place you've been in. But just trust that being you is enough, and that even if you were to apply these methods, just put your spin on it.
Right. Earlier in the show, we actually kind of trashed technology, and what we said is still valid. Let's flip it around for a sec and talk about how it can actually obviously be used to benefit us, especially if you're going to be a freelancer in terms of lead generation or networking in general. But in what ways do you use like social media for your networking goals, whether it be Facebook or Instagram or just whatever?
I like to, so there's a variety of methods that you can use. Typically when I'm at a meetup event or some kind of in-person event, I ask people how they like to connect, because you could ask somebody for their phone number and they're never on their phone, like they're always on Facebook. Or you can ask them to connect on Facebook and they're not really on there, they're on LinkedIn. And so you just ask what way someone wants to connect, and then just reach out, ask how they're doing, maybe do a little research on their page, see what it is they do, watch some of their content if they're a content creator, see some of their posts, and then ask them about that thing. Ask them if they want to be on a podcast. If you have a podcast or a show that you host, ask if you could be on their podcast if you have something valuable to give. I like to ask a lot of questions, and just like, if you want to know something about someone, just put it out there and ask a question. Another way is like get in a group of like-minded people. So like, there's this group called Be a Guest Podcast Collaboration Community. And there are tons. I think it's like at 70.5 or 70.7 thousand people, or 70.7K people, like 70,000 people in this group that either have a podcast or want to be on a podcast. And you put a post on there and everyone's going to come pouring in with, yes, I'd love to be on your podcast. But it works the other way around. Like, hey, I want to be on a podcast. Yes, come on my podcast. And it's like, wow, this is the coolest thing ever. And to meet people that way, just find a group of people that are doing the thing that you love and watch how easy things flow. Like, the beauty of social media is you can pick and choose in this echo chamber. Like, social media was designed, the algorithm was designed with our universe in mind, because it's an echo chamber. You search for something or talk about something, and what's the next thing that happens? It is on your phone. The first thing you see when you open your Instagram feed or your Facebook feed or your LinkedIn feed is the last thing you were talking about. And you're like, oh my God, it's such a coincidence. No, it's really not. But it's convenient, right? Like, if I want to, like, I'm going to mention waterbed. I'm just going to say the word waterbed a couple times and see if, like, when I get on Facebook next time, I see a waterbed, and I'll send you a screenshot when I see it. I don't even think waterbeds are a thing anymore. But
if they're not, then one will pop up on eBay.
Right. And if they are, then it's just going to open my feed to seeing waterbeds now, because, I see a lot of motivational content. I see a lot of, like, financial stuff. I see updates from people in my group, and when they're posting their stuff, and people from Vid Summit, but I don't really see friends from high school anymore, or I don't see, political messages. Like, it's just not what I look at. But a lot of people don't know that that's how the algorithm's designed. And so if you're wanting to use social media and technology to your benefit, you have to leverage it, not be leveraged by it, right? Because you have to think. Facebook.
Has anyone said that before? If they haven't, you might want to trademark that and get paid. I'm just saying.
I'm not sure. Leverage.
Maybe Google it later and check it out. But go ahead and finish your thought.
No, that's really good. I like the way you think. So leveraging social media or technology instead of being leveraged by it. So you have to think, like, why is Facebook free? Why is Instagram free? Why are these things free? They're not free. You may not be paying with your money, but you're paying with the most important asset you have, your time and your attention, right?
Yeah.
And, like, we talk about big data and, big pharma and big whatever, all these big companies. Big data is a big money producing machine, because data is king. Like, Facebook has more data points on us than the judicial and the justice system put together. Like, they may have our fingerprints and our records of when we got arrested, but Facebook knows when we get up, what we look at, what we like, who we talk to, everything we talk about. They can hear what's going on in our house. And think about all these augmented reality, like blended reality, where you're like, oh, you can take a picture from Amazon and see where this thing fits in your house. So now they have data points of what your house looks like from every area you've taken a picture. Like, man, craziest thing happened. I'm talking about, this is like last week. I was like, how does ChatGPT and Gemini and all these other AI models, how do they put out so much good stuff so fast? And then I go, hey Siri, open my phone. And she's like, what? I'm sorry, there's a problem. I don't understand. And I'm like, Apple, you're failing, right? And then the very next, I think it was either the next day or later that night, I see there's an update. Apple Intelligence. Siri's been updated. It now has a Chat GPT integrated, and you can take pictures of what's in your space and ask it what it is. And I'm like, is it brand new? Was it always there? Or was I the straw that broke the camel's back? Like, was I the last person that complained about it? Was it generative AI that said, oh, that's a good idea, and then it generated that and created Apple Intelligence and then just made it? Like, you'll never know. Was it a coincidence? I don't even know what is coincidence and what's not anymore, because everything is so engineered and manufactured, right?
If we go any further, we'll be stepping into Black Mirror's territory.
Yeah, let's back up.
But one thing that's pretty cool about social media, if let's say, and what I ask for when I build rapport with someone when I'm out and about, it actually depends on how deep the connection was. So if the connection was pretty deep, then I'll ask for the phone number. But let's say if I only had a chance to talk to them for like 5 minutes and it wasn't that deep, but we do see we have some things in common, yeah, I'll try and link up with them on Facebook. So I'll get their Facebook information. And, we've added each other, so they see my timeline, I see their timeline. But a lot of times people post what they like on their timeline. And so I might scroll and see like, oh, they like the post about Yu Yu Hakusho, like this anime I used to watch when I was a kid. So I might message them like, oh, I didn't know you were a fan of Yu Yu Hakusho. Like, who's your favorite character? My favorite character was Hiei. Oh, my favorite character was Kurama. Then all of a sudden, this is the conduit to build more rapport and extend that relationship further. Even though we didn't get to the we didn't build enough of a connection to exchange phone numbers yet.
Yeah.
But Facebook was a good in-between to get us there potentially in the future.
Yeah. And, if they're that kind of person, there's always that person that texts one thought, one line at a time. So it's like, good morning. Hey, I got a question for you. And it's like separate text. So like, as long as you're not disturbed.
It's getting pinged 3 or 4 times instead of just one.
Yeah, like just send, at this point, just send me the paragraph. I was okay with the paragraph. But like, Facebook, social media is a good buffer just to find out if they're that kind of person. And then once they're the kind of person that you could communicate with comfortably, then okay, now we can move into the phone zone.
Yeah, it can be a filter too.
Yeah.
I'm probably the king of social filters, to be honest. Now, not just anyone gets in my network. I'm gonna be honest.
Well, I am honored to be in your network because I know I'm a little left field. We keep going so far off the track with the questions. How many questions you got left, man?
Well, we're actually getting ready to wind down, but I only have like about 3 questions left. But with that, since you brought it up, this is actually a great time to revisit your book because you want to tell the audience a little more about your book. And you mentioned when it's coming out, but what inspired you to write this book? Because a lot of people will say they want to write a book, and they may actually have the skills to do it.
Yeah. 5
years later, book's still not out.
Well, what inspired me to write this book is, we talked about your network is your net worth. You can literally get rich by changing who you hang around. I went from being a waiter to not being able to get another waiter job to taking a job as a barista inside of a tech company at a Starbucks that was run by another company inside of a company. But when I got to the building and I was like, this is so amazing, I was so curious, and my mind was saying, it was hearing my mom and my sisters and all these people that have told me how to succeed. They're like, keep your head down, work hard, and don't say anything to anyone. Bro, don't you know that backfired on me? I did the exact opposite. I popped my head up, I asked a question, and the questions never stopped. I talked to every single person, and I worked hard, but I worked hard at getting other people to work harder because I was a supervisor, right? So like teaching them to be efficient. And I ended up telling the story of how I went from waiter to barista to getting hired by the tech company to breaking into UX design, which was something I didn't even know existed, but found out that it's more along the lines of who I am naturally, like as a person. It just, everything about the field and the profession lines up with who I am naturally and how I interact with the world. And so I noticed I'm telling the story over and over again. If I just write a book or make a YouTube video about it, I wouldn't have to keep telling the same story. And so it turned into a book. It sat on my shelf for 3 years. I finally revamped it and kind of finished writing it and put the polishes on it. Then I had someone edit and look at it and give me some feedback. Then I fixed on that feedback. And then I finally read it. I was like, this is actually pretty good. Like if I'm interested in me, but nobody knows me enough to be interested in me. So then I rewrote it one last time. And it's like, tell just enough of the story to make the point so they can get the principle that they can apply in their life so that they too can experience this kind of growth. And it's been rewritten with the person in mind, the reader in mind. How can they get the most from this book? And so I've seen the principles work. I've seen how, mentoring and networking with other people and helping them to see the same things I saw, but in a shorter amount of time has actually worked. And so people would come to this meetup that we formed called M3 Plus. It's multidimensional mutual mentorship. And it's basically everyone has something to offer and everyone has something to gain. Everyone has something to gain and everyone has something to give. We're all mentors and mentees mutually. And so what happens when they come to our meetups is the juniors get to network with the seniors or the director level people. And it levels the playing field because the seniors get to see the value that the juniors have, and the juniors get to see that the seniors still have imposter syndrome. They still don't know what they're doing. They're still afraid, right? 20, 30 years into the profession, they still feel like they don't know what they're doing and someone's going to find out. Imagine that. And then they get to see that the juniors coming. Yeah, they got out of school, but there's something about their background and who they are that is going to add perfectly to this team or perfectly to this field or this discipline to potentially innovate and make it the best thing ever. But you would never know that because you're reading resumes and you're looking at portfolios online and, everyone's doing this cookie cutter portfolio and how it looks from like how school tells you to make it look. So the inspiration was I got tired of retelling my story over and over and over again. And so now that you asked me that question, I'm like, I really need to get back on finishing this, getting it published and getting it out there. Because here I am. I'm telling an abridged version of the story. I don't want to go too long because I could go really long into the story. So just in a nutshell, I leveled up multiple times in a short amount of time by just putting to practice this framework. And I'll share with you real quick the greater framework. It's so it's GREATER, right? And so grounded in your unique story, reframing limiting beliefs, embracing continuous learning or challenges, whatever it is, just embrace it. Action-oriented goals, not just outcomes, right? Because we're in the business of action. The universe or God or whatever you believe in is the business of results. And then T, transition with purpose. So where are you going, but why are you going there? More importantly, because your why is going to drive you. And if you want to be great, you can stop there. GREAT. If you want to be greater, that's when you empower a network or empower the people around you and you have resilience in the face of setbacks. Because the difference between someone that succeeds and someone that doesn't is just they just showed up one more time, right? It felt like failure until they showed up that last time and it actually worked. Yeah, that's the basis of it, is taking those principles that have worked for me, that are timeless, that I see all the success come from, and then packaging it, putting it in a book, putting a bow on it, and saying, here, you too can receive this transformation.
Okay, I like that acronym. You're like me. You think in terms of acronyms because I've never an acronym for sales. I've covered this I've covered the first portion of it on the podcast, but I call it the grip formula that helps you with soft sales. But G stands for gather intelligence, R stands for reducing resistance, I stands for initiate action, and then P stands for position. And I've already done a podcast where I cover the G and the R, which is the soft sales portion of it. Then the I and the P is the more hard sales portion of it, if you so desire to go that direction. But yeah, acronyms are highly slept on, if you ask me.
They really are. And there was another. I have a friend of mine, Paul Franks. He's actually my financial advisor, and he came up with another acronym for greater that, like, I didn't even ask for it. It just, he can't help but think in acronyms, and so I loved it. It was goodness, I don't know where I saved. Oh, here it is. No, yeah, I'm not gonna find it right now. But it was, yeah, I can't remember. I thought it was in my notes, but it's not. So,
and sometimes that happens.
Oh, here it is. Literally right here. Given requires,
It was staring you in the face, huh?
It was staring me in the face the whole time, and I was looking at technology, and it was on my good old trusty notepad. Giving requires empathetic action to empower reformation. That's another way of greater. And so, like, you know, if you're going to be greater, you're going to be greater by serving other people.
Right. That's pretty cool too. Now you got me kind of curious. How many versions of greater are there out there in terms of acronyms? I might Google that later. It's a very creative. It's something to be very creative.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways it could go, right? There's a lot of words that can substitute. There's even like other words I can substitute for what I have here. But I think this one stuck because of the foundational part, the grounding.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's a good, like, I know what I ultimately plan to do is, you know, you see the wheel of life for life coaching. So you got personal, finances, love, health. Like, there's all these, I think it's 8 different parts of your life.
Yeah.
And like, you measure how well you feel on a scale of 1 to 10 in those areas. And then the ones you feel less in, like, we balance those out. You look for balance in your whole life.
Mm-hmm.
So having greater finances, greater business, greater relationships, like taking the greater framework and then reworking the acronym to work for that specific area of their life, and then writing a series of books so that literally anyone can level up from where they are, no matter what. So that's the big vision for it.
Gotcha. I'm looking forward to seeing that manifest. I will say this could be people, you don't have to take this serious. Well, you could try it if you want. I'm not saying I'm going to try it, but you want a challenge when it comes to acronyms, and you got to be conceited to do this. But I'm no more conceited than needed, and as long as you're not being entitled or hurting anyone, I don't even see being conceited as something that's bad. But come up with an acronym for your own name. That'd be an interesting experience. No, I'm not asking you. I'm putting it out there for the audience because it's something kind of interesting and entertaining. But it's not if you have this kind of intuition to come up with something on the cusp, I don't know what the hell you're doing, but you need to go and be like some kind of creative entrepreneur or something. The world needs to experience your brain. If you can just come up with something like that on the cusp, I'll just say that.
I mean, with enough practice, I think they could. I really do. I believe in your audience, man. They show up for you and you give them value, and eventually their brain changes and the stuff will be able to come off the cusp. The guy, my financial advisor, gave me these. There was get results every game for Greg. Get results every game. It's like, I like that. And then he said, for Gregory, it was God relieves every grief openly revealing yourself. And so that spoke to the vulnerability that I use, like just naturally, me showing up as me, saying the things that no one else says, asking the questions no one else will ask, like being willing to be ridiculed so that people feel a part of rather than apart from, if that makes sense. Like you can come into a group of people that they seem so perfect. Like I'll use Christianity, right? You go to a church, you're trying to, and I can almost guarantee it's a lot harder to use any of these strategies we talked about in the setting of a church or a church family because of how fake some religious people can be. It's like, I am holier than thou. I do not sin. You shouldn't be doing this. You should be doing this. And like they're whacking you upside the head with the Bible. And then you find out they were sleeping with children, right? It's like, what? But
yeah, that does not compute.
It
kind of like how
I
go to a hospital and I see doctors smoking cigarettes.
That
part. Yeah. But
I digress.
I digress too. But I would say that we are in the process of winding the podcast down. But I always ask my guests if they have a question that they want to hit me up with about anything. But audience has banned the question, why'd you start the podcast? They've heard it 5 times. They're like, done, we're not hearing that anymore. But do you have any questions you want to hit me with, G-Wiz?
I do, man. Why'd you start the
I said that for your safety. I don't want my audience to put a hit out on you. You've been warned.
No. So if you were someone that was wanting to apply what they just heard on this podcast today, where would you suggest they start?
Oh, that's a pretty deep question. I would say the best place that they could start is by setting a number of people that they should talk to per day. And it could be something small like 2, and you might be asking like, well, where am I supposed to meet these people? Unless you're literally staying inside the house, and you could even argue that you could even meet people on social media. That's actually not what I'm talking about. But actually leave the house. If you're just going to get groceries, one of the easiest places is the grocery store. And I'm not saying do this with any intention of selling anything. Just go and find a way of having a conversation. You could literally do this in the produce aisle at a Sprouts or Whole Foods or Walmart or wherever you find yourself at. And if you can do that inside the store, I mean, you're in the same aisle for the same reason, probably. Just apply some of what we talked about, have a conversation, and you'll start to feel how easy it is, and the awkwardness or just hesitation for you to interact with people starts to go away. That opens the doors to do that anywhere you go. The grocery store is the most, you're there all the time. And if you can do that there, think of every other place you go, whether it be, well, I don't think Radio Shack is even around anymore, but for instance, a Radio Shack, obviously there's the grocery stores. And we haven't even touched on events, which events are much, much easier to talk to people in general because y'all are there for the same reason, probably.
Yeah.
But if you can do it in a place like the store, you can really do it anywhere. And that opens the door to start doing anything else that we talked about.
Absolutely. Well, man, I'm glad I asked because what I was going to say is just get out there and try. Look stupid, fail, try again. You'll learn more from being in motion and taking action than you will from planning or thinking.
Right. Don't get caught up in analysis paralysis.
That part.
Yeah. So, G-Wiz, if people want to get more of you, where should they go? Like, how can they? I know you got a YouTube channel, so feel free to shout that out. And Facebook, like, how can people get more of you, whether it be your content? And we already said we're going to leave a link to your either pre-order your book or get your book if it's past that date in the description.
Okay. I appreciate that. So I am the official G-Wiz anywhere you want to connect, except for Twitter, I'm just official G-Wiz. There's no the, but the official G-Wiz, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I just started another channel, and I'm in the process of moving all of my Question Everything things off of my official G-Wiz, because that's my music. So I think it's Question Everything Design for that YouTube channel. Let me pull it up real quick and see, just to make sure I'm not lying to y'all. Yeah, Question Everything Design. So at Question Everything Design, where I teach people how to design the life of their dreams with questions, because we should always be questioning everything. So thank you for having me on the podcast. I'm the only Gregory Kasim Rutledge, so you can also find me that way on LinkedIn. It's Gregory Rutledge with the sunshine emoji. But the official G-Wiz, you'll find me, and then everything is interlinked. I just sent the link tree. What is it? https://linktr.ee/Gregory Rutledge. All of my stuff is there. Would love to have people join in the greatest group ever on Facebook, literally the greatest group ever, where that's where I nurture all my people. I do group coaching Monday nights, 6:30 to 8:30. If you want to come, bring questions and see how we can help you implement these things you've learned here, or, you know, something you're stuck with that you don't quite have clarity on. That's what we're there for, is to help you get clarity. So I'm helping y'all bridge gaps, connect dots, and break silos. I'd love to connect with you. And the pre-order link, I dropped that in the chat as well. Go ahead and pre-order your copy of the book. I will get that workbook and that hidden chapter to you, and a signed copy of the book when the book is ready. It's only $20 for pre-order right now. So we'd love to have y'all get on board with this movement, and let's help the world be greater.
All right, everyone. So let me just make sure that y'all can still hear me. Yeah, I should still be good. So yeah, I'm good. Make sure that y'all can still hear me. So we've started the official Q&A. We've ended the podcast portion of this Financial Freedom Friday. I see we do have some questions in the chat, so I'm gonna get to those. But I see that G-Wiz is in the chat too. Oh, you can hear me? Cool. So G-Wiz, do you want to hop on the show? Because I know some people, they would love to hear your perspective on these questions too. But yeah, we're officially in the Q&A, everyone. I've dropped the link for anyone that wants to join the show and ask their question live. And if you don't want to ask your question live, you can just pop it in the chat and I'll be sure to get to you. But in general, networking is something that I'm not going to say is underrated, because it's not, but it's something that it never hurts to improve. Yo, G-Wiz, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
You're a little low, but let me see if that's on my end.
What about now?
That's better, but maybe just a little more
higher.
Yeah, that's good right there.
That's good. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I see you got your new set set up, right?
Yeah, man. I had to get out of that dark room. It was soundproof. It just felt, even when there was 3 windows in there. It was dark, dingy. It was soundproof. A soundproof room is something you can visit every now and then when you're recording music, but to live in there day in, day out for everything you do with your creativity, as far as music, work, side hustle, the whole thing, no, you gotta separate it out. So the studio's in a room here, the office, everything we do with work is here, so that we can close the door on day job and play. Or, you know, when I'm in here, I know it's work. When I'm in there, I know it's play and disconnect. And my daughter has the giant room that used to be the creation station. So yeah, man, I'm grateful. I was looking back on that show, watching it, and just thinking, man, I could have done so much more in that room. But it is what it is. It's a new chapter, 2020 Thrive, baby.
Oh yeah. Plus having everything separate, it goes a long way towards if everything is all in one room, like you're sleeping in this room and you're also working in this room and all that good stuff, like you get these conflicting thoughts that are distracting you from work. Like, well, I really want to check this YouTube video out that I'm watching for fun, or I want to turn Netflix on, or all this stuff. If you just have all that in a separate room, that can be your relaxation station, just unwind. And then here, you can have the thoughts to continue to move your life forward.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And if you can't separate, if you don't have multiple rooms, at the very least, this is a hack that someone said. Take the room that you have and split it in half. So this half is work, computer, like all that set up, and this half is sleeping and stuff. So that's a good compromise if you don't have multiple rooms. But the best version is have multiple rooms so you can separate them.
Yeah, or get out the house. There's that
Yeah,
too.
there's that too. I mean, you can get yourself an office, or you can go to Starbucks or these other coffee places, and not just Starbucks. Pretty much, there's a bunch of local, like more stylish coffee places.
Yeah.
They usually are great to work in.
There's one locally here that I usually frequent because it's right next door to my chiropractor, and I want to give them a shout out because they do really good. They do really good pastries, ice cream, coffee. They have a siphoned cold brew. They're called Froth Coffee.
I've heard
It's
of
right
them.
here in Hazlitt, but I usually try to visit the smaller coffee places because, you know, Starbucks is so cliche. Everyone goes to Starbucks, but we don't even like their coffee. So, you know, support your local businesses.
Yeah, definitely. But
And I'm excited to jump into these questions. I was looking at those questions in the chat, and man, I'm excited. I'm excited to jump in.
right. So yeah, we did get some very good questions. I'm excited to jump on them too. They're very. Ooh, so what's that? We got like a lot of background noise now.
Oh, did something change?
It did. Did your arm like hit the mic or something? It was just like this for a sec, then it stopped, slowly faded out. I don't hear it now.
Okay, I was changing the sound. Getting used to this new setup.
Hey, it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
I don't care how experienced you are. Going through a new setup is never going to be perfect the first few times you stream. It's just not. You got to accept the fact that something's going to screw up, address it, and boom.
Yeah, but I'm good now, right?
Yeah. You good?
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me not touch the desk. I probably jolted something.
Okay. But yeah, so Lim asks, how does someone define a comfort zone socially so they know if they are stuck in one? What are your thoughts on that, G-Wiz? And then I'll go because I do have a story I could share that can greatly help with that.
I just went through this recently. So socially, I like that he put socially because comfort zones are everywhere in our life. Everything we do is habit, right? What we do the most is who we become. And it just kind of defines who we are. But socially, you know, you can be an extrovert or an introvert or an ambivert like myself. And that can kind of define like where you're comfortable. And there's this misconception that the extroverts are the outgoing people and the introverts are the you know, homebodies that don't leave home and don't like people. And the ambiverts kind of can do both. That's right. But an extrovert just it's really about batteries, like how you recharge your batteries, how you get energy. An extrovert is energized by people. An introvert is energized by that alone time, and an ambivert can pull on different, like they can pull from either or, and it really depends on the energy of the people and in the environment you're in, right? Because there's some situations where I can be extroverted, and there's some situations where there's another extrovert that's just on 10 and they're emotionally immature. And so you just want to kind of withdraw or leave because it's just, I don't want to compete and make everyone else uncomfortable. So I'm just going to withdraw or, you know, kind of get them to bring it down a little bit because they don't have any social awareness. But defining the comfort zone socially is, what do you do the most? Like, where do you go the most? Are you a creature of habit that, you know, on this day, I frequent this coffee shop. I only deal with these types of people. I only go to these types of places. Like, if you find yourself in the same rooms or the same circles, and you're trying to grow, you're never really going to grow in the circle of sameness. And so if you find yourself planted in a routine that's not serving you anymore, and you feel that urge to want to get out of that and do something else, but you just can't, that would be, to me, how I would define it. And for me, mine was, I was getting paid $250,000 a year working with the government and doing space contracts and stuff that didn't really, it's cool. Don't get me wrong. It's really cool stuff. I learned a lot of really cool things about lasers and space and the domain of how that stuff works, and all of the jargon, and learned some classified information that I just didn't know, right? Can't share anything, but it's just not my cup of tea. It doesn't light me up. It doesn't jolt me out of bed in the morning and make me want to go and dive into it. It was cool at first, and then it just got to the point where I did so well with building the team and getting people to gel well together and breaking silos, bridging gaps, connecting dots, what I do. But at some point, I couldn't wake up in the morning anymore. I could barely stomach doing what I was doing. And so Friday, January 10th, I resigned. Anybody in their right mind wouldn't walk away from that kind of money. But I was just sometimes it's not about the money. Sometimes it's about what feeds my soul and what lights me up inside. And so I felt that nagging, that calling, that, Greg, there's something bigger. There's something that you're called for and you're not doing it here. So you got to leave. And so my comfort zone was knowing that every day or every month on the 7th, I had this amount of money coming in. It would handle my bills and I'd be okay as long as I stayed in this box. And I got way too big for this box. My thinking, things I learned, crowds I'm involved in outside of work, they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars in a day from doing challenges. And I'm over here still, with the safe $10,000 a month income. And, I could argue the benefits were really good, the total compensation package, all the things were good, but it was a comfort zone that I was stuck in, because even though it was comfortable and someone else would be much more comfortable in that position, it was no longer comfortable for me. I think what makes it a comfort zone is we stay there because it's safe, but it's not really comfortable, right? It's safe, but it's not comfortable. I hope that answers the question. I can't see if Lim is if that's landing with Lim, but I would love for you to share your story.
Well, first, let me say that's a powerful story to share. And it kind of goes a little deeper than just social comfort zones. Because like you said, comfort zones, they really can stagnate our lives in multiple areas. Like I've seen dudes that are powerhouses when it comes to finances and entrepreneurships, and they have phobias with women because they don't step out the comfort zone, and vice versa. So oftentimes there is some crossover. But yeah, here's the story that I want to share. So when it comes to personalities, I have pretty much taken every single personality test there is out there. Any way of assessing a person's personality, I've done it. I have my zodiac chart memorized in the tropical, in the Bazi, and also the Vedic or the Hindu astrology. And there's a book behind me, and it's real popular in my rental units that I have on Airbnb called Type Talk. It shows you based on these four letters of an acronym, like what's your personality type based on sense and feel and stuff like that. And for the life of me, this is the one I can't remember which one I am, the acronym that I am. But here's the takeaway. The test says that I'm 40% introverted. 40% extroverted, 60% introverted. So that would put me in that classification of being an ambivert, since one's not overly more powerful than the other.
Yeah.
But I find that I still get drained after long, there's a whole day of networking, at a massive event. Let's say I get there at 2:00 and then the event is over at 9. I'll be social that whole event, but I'll be drained at the end, and I would need a day to recuperate. One day I made the intentional decision that, you know what, I'm going to treat this stuff like a video game. And you know how you have like a life gauge in a video game, like if you're playing a shooter, they might have a stamina gauge, and then you run too much or whatever, then that stamina gauge gets drained, and then they got to go to sleep or eat or something.
Yes.
I'm gonna treat this like I have a social stamina gauge, and I'm gonna make the intention to extend that by pushing myself beyond what I know that I'm capable of. And how do I do that? We talked about the grip formula in the last podcast when I covered like how to increase your sociality. If y'all haven't checked that out, then y'all can check out that podcast. I'll link it in the description. But assuming you know how to interact with people and build rapport, when you get tired, you no longer have like a reason to withdraw from a social situation because most people are scared that they don't know how to carry a conversation, they don't know how to talk. Once you conquer that, it's more so an energy thing. So how do you extend that? I would purposely go to events knowing that I'm socially tired, and I would go there and I would keep talking to people. And there's a caveat to this. When I would start talking to people, when I would be in groups, I'm not allowed to sit there and just say yes, no, or give like these short responses. I have to engage in the conversation. And I did that for about 8 months straight when I was tired. And I found like events on Meetup, Eventbrite, all over the place to go to. And I found that I was able to increase my social stamina bar, if you will, to 5 days. So if there's massive events on all in like for like 5 days straight, I can go to those events and be social for that long without really, really having to recharge. But that was the intentional decision I made on my part. And I didn't give way to making excuses like, oh, I had to retreat because I'm introverted and that's gonna I have to do that. No, I don't, because the worst thing on the planet for me is if someone was to present an opportunity to me, but I'm too quote unquote socially drained to take advantage of it. So I go there and I'm just not as social as I would be, and then I blow the opportunity because they didn't see the kind of person I am. I'm too quote unquote drained. I don't want that to ever happen. So I've trained myself to the point to where even if I'm tired, my normal social reflexes come out and I'm social, I'm talking, I'm engaging, etc., even if I'm tired. But that took intentionality. So that's how I really broke out of my comfort zone and kind of redefined it in the sense of I no longer have a social comfort zone. It's just even if I'm tired, I can still operate.
That reminds me of a story. Back when I first was entering into 12-step recovery, I had run across this bumper sticker. It said, do one thing every day that scares you. It was Eleanor Roosevelt. And I thought, yeah, somebody needs to hear this because there's a lot of people that are afraid in the world. So I put it on my car. I bought it, put it on my car. And I was the one that saw it every time I got in my car, right? And I just kept thinking, I'm not afraid of anything. I was in my early 20s. And so it's like, I realized, right? Because awareness, once you're aware, you can't be unaware. I realized I was afraid of everything. I was afraid to walk in front of people, talk in front of people. I was afraid to eat alone, go anywhere alone. There were so many things I was afraid of. And I was like, and here I am thinking that, I just didn't like it or just, that's just not who I am. But really, if we get visceral, I was afraid, right? I was afraid of being rejected. And it was a comfort zone where I wasn't comfortable. But what I did was exactly what the quote said. I just did one thing. I didn't try to change the world overnight. I didn't try to take it all on. I just said, I'm gonna do one thing. So I went and ate at a restaurant by myself, and it was petrifying. Like, I was so scared to chew. I was looking around. I had my menu on the table so no one could see me eating. I just looked so awkward.
This is kind of tying into what you shared in the podcast, because I remember us talking about this.
And it didn't kill me. And so I was like, you know what? That wasn't as bad as I thought it'd be. Nobody laughed at me. Nobody pointed. Nobody came over and said, you're such a weirdo. Like, it didn't happen like it happened in middle school or high school, right? Or elementary. It's those events that create trauma that we just carry on, right? And it turned into if anything scares you, you have to face it head on so that nothing stands in your way. Because I found that there was a lot of opportunities I was missing out on by letting fear win. And I'm leaning back into that because there's a lot, you level up, you get to new places in your life, right? You start a business or you get into a leadership role. And then there's a new set of, different level, different devil. So there's a new set of challenges that make you feel afraid all over again. And you just got to do that one thing, just one thing every day that scares you. Because eventually what's going to happen, fear is a mile wide, it's a mile high, but it's only paper thin. And once you bust through, right, you realize that wasn't as hard as it should have been or what it seemed like. And then after that, it's just muscle memory, right? It's just showing up consistently. Like you said, I just kept pushing myself intentionally. And eventually I built my stamina bar, which is what happens in a video game, right?
Yeah.
That's good.
I think your hoodie says it all. Effortless. Like we want to get to that stage where whatever we need to do is just effortless.
Yeah. And I'll show you the back of the hoodie because it's one of Myron Golden's hoodies, but
I have the back.
Yeah. Can you read
it? You have to work hard to make, and then your name is blocking out the rest, to make it look that easy. Oh, okay. That's pretty fitting.
And that's exactly what we were just talking about. You have to work hard to make it look effortless, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's the work, right?
Well, if it was easy, everyone will be doing it.
That
I think we've all heard that at some point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have another good question by Finance 1038. This kind of fits into the theme of this season of the Side Hustle Society podcast, which is lead generation, but it also ties into what we're talking about here, which is networking. Is there a way that you filter out good events to attend in order to generate leads for your business?
So I've never attended networking events to generate leads for my business. So I can't speak to that one, but I've talked to people that do. I really think that if you go into it thinking about getting leads for your business, it feels very transactional. And so probably the thing to filter out would be trying to get leads for your business. What if you approached it from the standpoint of, I'm here to make connections, right? And when you make those genuine connections with people, those could turn into leads for your business. But like reading those energies, are these people you even gel with? Are these people you would like to work with? Are they people with potential problems that you could solve, right? Because generating leads to your business is very vague. But what is your business? What kind of leads are you trying to generate? I remember one of my business friends, Kevin, talks about this. There's like three or four different types of people that, when you're networking, there's those people that, no, I would absolutely not work with these kinds of people. There's these people that I see there's a potential connection. They could be a potential client. There's the people that, okay, it may not be something now, but it's something to nurture. And then there's like, oh, these are definitely clients. I can't remember the scale, but as you're having these conversations and connecting with people, like thinking that in the back of your mind, is this the kind of person I would want to work with? Now, as far as filtering out good events, find events that would have your ideal client there, right? So you're not going to go find, business clients at a dating event and vice versa, right? Like you have to go to...
No, a lot of people have that confused, particularly the in reverse. You got people showing up to business events trying to find a wife or a husband.
Yep. And that's why I said that, because, it can... that part kind of, ruins it for other people. But that happens everywhere, right? Like people they're desperate for love. They're desperate for attention and affection. And, you're always going to have that person. But I've learned this in my life, that pretty much whatever you're looking for, you will find wherever you're at, right? If you're looking, like it was in 12-step programs, if you're looking for recovery, you'll find recovery. If you're looking for love, you'll find love. If you're looking for a casual thing, you'll find that too. And if you're looking for drugs, you'll find that, which is ironic to say in a 12-step recovery program that you can find that. But I think that's the same in the world, right? There's a lot of those principles that I was taught in recovery that just transfer everywhere else. And whatever you're looking for, you're going to find. So if you're looking for clients in your business, look for the kind of people that could be good clients for your business. But don't make it transactional, right? Like, have a genuine conversation. Be genuinely curious about that other person, because that's going to build a genuine relationship. And even if they weren't a potential client or a lead for your business, that could turn into that because of the person you are.
Nicely put. I have a slightly different perspective. Like what G-Wiz just said applies. I would say that when you go to events, you got to kind of put them in like one or two categories. There's the events you attend as you're living your life. And then there are events that, if we're going to be honest, you wouldn't be there unless you're only there because it furthers your career or your business or whatever. And I think even if it's the second type, I don't see anything necessarily wrong with that. But it's setting your expectation, match your expectation once you categorize it with reality. And one way you can do this, particularly if you're looking for leads for your business, is I'm going to say this right now. I'm not saying completely discard free events, but just set expectation to where if you're going there looking for leads, you may get some leads, but a lot of them aren't going to close because free events are usually full of what I like to call wannabepreneurs. So they don't have websites, whatever they're talking about. They may not even have a business card there. They get validation from getting the title of entrepreneur because they're playing around with something, but they're not really about that life yet, which is fine. But free events are full of stuff like that. So set your expectation to that and don't expect too much. Every now and then you'll find someone that may end up being a client or something like that. And it does depend on what type of business you're doing, but there's that. But if you're looking for leads, the ratio, in my experience, tends to increase when you go to paid events.
Yeah.
Because that serves as a filter to weed out a lot of the wannabepreneurs. And when I say paid event, a lot of people assume like where you and me met, which is Bit Summit, the tickets were $9.99. They're nearly, with tax and all that stuff, it's over $1,000. People jump to that conclusion right away, like, oh my gosh, I gotta save up $1,000 for something like that. Is an example of a paid event, but there are local paid events that charge like $30 to get in.
Yeah.
And that still qualifies as a paid event. So they can charge $5. The point is it filters out the wannabepreneurs, even if it's $5. So consider increasing your budget to start going to those paid events, and you'll probably have better results. But keep what G-Wiz said in mind too, because you might be discarding people that could, change your life in other ways.
Absolutely. And since you brought up that aspect, that you really have to do your research on the events you're paying for. I won't mention any names, but I've been to many events, and there are some that were way more valuable than what I paid for, and there are some where I was like, what was that money for? Where you pay the extra to be a VIP and to get the full experience, and then they don't have confirmation or where you need to go, or they cancel the things that they promised you with the VIP package, and it's like,
oh, that's the conversation.
Yeah. Or it's all ego, right? They're pretending they're going to teach you something so they can sell you something rather than actually helping you so that you want to buy, right? Actually providing value so you actually want to buy from them. And when I saw that contrast, it was like event after event. It was like I went to one of my mentor's events, and there's a reason he's my mentor, right? And then I went to this other event, and I was like, God, the contrast. Now I see why my mentor teaches what he teaches, how he teaches it, because of people like this. And then I found out that my mentor got a start at this event, and I was like, it makes sense. Now, I'm not saying that the whole event was bad. I was still able to salvage my money's worth of connections and information.
Mm-hmm.
But if I wasn't looking for that, I probably wouldn't have found it. And there was a lot of people that were complaining in my ear because I'm the kind of person that people just come to and trauma dump, right? So they were telling me, you know, this thing is boring. This is crazy. I wasted my money. I'm gonna go drink. And I was like, okay, that's one option. That's one perspective. But, you know, you can try to at least salvage what's here, right? And so that's what I did. You can get some paying clients from paying, even from a bad one. So I say, set your sight on what it is you want to accomplish and then actually go for it, because you'd be surprised. Like, I'm finding this out for myself. You can get what you're looking for, whether it's good or bad, no matter where you're at. Because coming into the job I just left, I had my sight on doubling my income 4 times to get to $1 million a year, or $1 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
I got to the 250 mark and I was like, all right, I'm comfortable here. And then I didn't dream. I didn't set my sight for bigger. And so I got in that comfort zone. And then at some point, my living started going up here. My income was here. And so it was like, I started saying, I don't have money. I'm not making enough. I'm not going to do this. I'm not. And I started prophesying my demise. And what happened? Literally watched it happen. And so it shows me that no matter what I say or think or feel the most, I'm going to get it eventually. Mm-hmm. That's going to be my mantra this year, that I'm telling people, like, watch what you say, watch what you think, because it will literally come to be if you're not careful. In both ways. Like, it, mm-hmm. I've been in I would say funk, but just kind of a place where I've realized that it's that simple. Period. It's just that simple. And so it's
no need for any further elaboration. It's that simple, huh?
It's that simple.
Oh, nicely put. I can definitely relate to that. You set a goal and you work on it throughout the years or months or whatever. And it's very important to re-up on that and establish new goals, because I did snap out of it. So I didn't stay in this mode for too long, but for the longest time, like, I had this goal of, I want to make like 6 figures a year. And then I made $100,000, not last year, but the year before that. That's when I technically broke the 6-figure wall. And I mentally got comfortable there, especially like we live in the South, so $100,000 has more weight than, let's say, California or New York. And after a few months, I had to slap myself out of it. Like, hold on, wait. There are further things that you can achieve, and there are other ways you can help more people if you go past this. And then I reminded myself, well, what about being an accredited investor? What about having the opportunity to get in that private club and actually play a role in influencing future companies? But if you don't make enough money, which is in this case $200,000, and not just in 1 year, it has to be over a period of time, it would be illegal for you to even get in there in the first place and invest. Don't you want to penetrate that? So yeah, but and that's why I'm a big fan of not the New Year's resolution thing, because my birthday is too close to New Year's resolutions. So any kind of resolution, I just move it to my birthday. But I'll just say, whatever time you choose, like once a year, just sit down, evaluate where you are and where you want to be and what do you want out of life and who you want to help. And oftentimes you'll find that that'll help you in setting future goals.
I would even venture to say that maybe we should make that a quarterly thing, because if you wait a whole year, you only have so many years here. And so waiting a full year to reevaluate, sometimes you got to course correct in 3 months. Sometimes you got to course correct in a month. So I would say either quarterly or when you start feeling like something's off, right? Not saying no, but I'm saying yes and yes. Mm-hmm. Set a time in the year where you do that. But also, like, if something's not feeling right, don't take it a full year, unless there's that learning curve and that, trying, as you call it, penetrating, right? Penetrating mm-hmm. through that wall of that brick wall of, this is getting boring, or I'm doing the same thing over and over again. Sometimes business is boring. Sometimes it's those things that you don't like doing that need to be done over and over again to scale to 7-8 figure business. And sometimes it's just simplifying it, right? Sometimes it's doing less of what doesn't work or less of what won't take you to that level and more of the things that will. I don't know if you've heard of the book 10x is easier than 2x.
I've heard of it. I haven't had a chance to put it on my shelf yet, though.
Okay, get it on there. I know that who is it? Can't remember the guy's name right now.
The author.
Yeah, the author's name. I don't know why it's not coming to me. Not important, but I keep saying Daniel Priestley, but that's scorecard marketing and key person of influence and oversubscribed. It's Daniel something. It's another Daniel, but he talks about, if you continue to do 80% of the things you're already doing and you change 20% of what you're doing to be something new, you can 2x. I've proven that to myself. What I want to do this year is I want to do 20% of the things that sustain my life and 80% of things I've never done before that are brand new to me, that people are suggesting, like my mentors, people that are making the millions of dollars a year or millions of dollars a month. Let me put that 80 into action and see how that changes my life. And when he talks about the frame, the focus, and the floor. So if you reframe, right, like your goal, and you set it 10x from what your actual goal is, it changes the focus, and then it raises the floor to the ceiling. And once the floor hits the ceiling has to burst, right? So let's say I'm trying to make $1 million by the end of this year, or $1 million in 5 years. Let's say I set that goal to $10 million. Well, now the things that are going to take me to 10 million are going to be way different than the things that are going to take me to 1 million. So why not just work on the things that'll take me to 10 million now? Like, why not like collapse that time frame? If it's 5 years, why not 1 year, right? Because if you shoot for the 10 and you land on 6, it's still more than 1.
Right.
And that's just one example, but like 10x your goal. Why are we playing this incremental level up thing when there's clearly people quantum leaping in life, right? There's people that go from homeless to owning complete movie studios, right? Tyler Perry. Why are we going? And I venture to say that it's because of our education system. Like, we were taught that, you have to learn this part first and this part next, and you got to go linearly to get there. And why are we wasting our time?
Yeah,
this has nothing to do with networking right now, but it was.
I'm gonna bring it back in a sec. But everyone knows how I feel about the educational system in general. I mean, well, I'll say this because I'm not gonna turn it into that kind of podcast, but I'll say that the educational system focuses way too much on. Well, they fail at this too, but they focus too much on being a specialist. When to succeed in life, you need a more generalized education on all things, so that you know what step to take next, regardless of what problems you encounter in a life area. But since people focus on one thing, being specialized in one thing, they know nothing about the other things. And it's like, these other things are what's going to allow you to keep moving forward at a steady pace and even pick up the pace if you want. If you're a specialist, where you have to come to a stop and get someone to do it for you, or maybe learn something from there. But if you just had a more generalized skill set, that takes you much further.
Well, and if you have a 30-year career as a specialist and that career ends, right, early or after 30 years, then you have to reignite that old brain of yours and try to learn something new, which is a lot harder later on.
Right.
And you got to take that learning curve to learn that new thing. And like, why not just be a multi-potentialite to begin with and learn more about more? So yeah, I agree.
Right. So it looks like we don't have any more questions, so we'll go ahead and start winding down in a sec. But I did have someone ask me this question, like not online, in person, since they knew I was doing a podcast on networking. And I said I would actually address it on the stream. And I wouldn't mind hearing what you have to say about this too. But it's one thing to expand your network, but every now and then, like, what if some people end up getting in your network that don't have the best integrity? should you have a filter over who you let in your network? And I would ask you, do you have a filter on like who you connect with or who you let in your network? Because actually, I'll just be quiet. What's your opinion on that?
Well, I think my filtration system is my ADHD. So,
Okay.
seriously, it's out of sight, out of mind. If you're not in my top 6 people that are messaging me, I forget that you're there. And so that's why they say follow up equals fortune. But also,
Fortune's in the follow up.
right, exactly. What happens for me, my filter is if someone just messages me, hey, or hey there, or how you doing, or what are you doing, we have nothing to talk about. Like, I'm not gonna play this game where you're like gonna play this long game to ask me a question or to ask me for something, right? Because we know what's coming. What the F do you want, right? Like, just get to the point. Or, hey, can I ask you a question? Okay, that was one.
Okay, so they got to be a direct communicator. Got you.
Right, just get to the point, right? And then there's the other thing is, if and I've been guilty of this, so I would filter myself out if I'm in one of these places. But if you're complaining,
I'm just laughing. Well, sorry to cut you off, but I'm just laughing because what you said. I know you're married and you have a wife, but what you said, it would be interesting how to see how that plays out on the dating market because women are the kings of sending like hate texts.
yeah,
And I remember some guy on YouTube was like breaking this down. He's talking about they no game having ass. I just started laughing. But I digress. That's a little off the topic. But what were you about to say? That was one reason. What was your other filtering ways?
that's funny, man. I haven't been in the dating market in so long. I forgot that's a thing, right? But you're right. They talk about us not having game, but boy. The other thing is, sorry, that's funny. Man, I don't even know now. Oh, I know what it was. So,
Okay.
if someone is toxic in your environment, right, they don't line up with your values and what it is you're wanting to do, and you want them out of your circle, no is a complete sentence and silence is an answer. Right? So if you just stop engaging, eventually they'll stop. Or you can be direct and say, listen, I have a set of values I live by. There's something that I stand for and you don't line up with that. So if you're not willing to elevate, I'm not coming down. Right? And part of me feels guilty for this, but you have to understand gravity is a principle that works in every arena that it's placed in because it's a principle, right? It's a law of gravity. Something is going to bring you down a lot faster than you're going to bring it up. And we had this exercise back in outpatient therapy when I was first getting sober in 2006, where they had one person stand on a chair and one person stand on the floor. And the goal was for the person on the floor to bring the person on the chair down and the person on the chair to bring the person on the floor up. Who do you think won?
Obviously, the person pulling you down.
Every time. And I was like, no, but I'm stronger than her, right? I can pull her up. She's like 120 pounds, soaking wet. I'm definitely going to bring her up. Absolutely not. She yanked me off that chair so fast because she's got gravity on her side, right? So if you know that there's someone that is in a lower place than where you want to be, and you feel them dragging on your energy, right? You got to get out. Because you're not going to be able to bring them up. You can love them from a distance. You can nurture them with your YouTube content, right? Or as I like to call your community service content. I got that from my mentor. It's the only thing you do for free, right? Yeah, let them learn from you from a distance, and when they're ready to elevate and come into your place, you're there. But you have to stand on your principles and who you are enough to like be who you are unapologetically, so that the people that resonate with you, that need to be with you, are attracted to you, and the people that don't, like, don't go saving them. Don't go trying to grab the people that don't need to be there. Just let them go.
Nicely put. My answer, I'm a little more proactive in that regard because I've let people, and this is when I was like, this is like 6 years ago. So this is younger Elijah. Um, Consistency is a filter for me. And I actually am like a lot of people, they may be more open, letting people in their network or their immediate circle. And then they find out that they act janky, so they have to get them out later. I did that in my early 20s, and nothing extreme, but just like when you're around these people that they say they're going to do something and they don't do it, or they're flaky or stuff like that. I remember having a conversation with my mom, and I told her this was a repeat of a conversation we've had like 4 times. And the problem was like these people were always being flaky, and it was always a different person each time. And she just told me, my middle name is Ray. She said, "Well, Ray, you got to realize that that's 90% of the population." And I looked at my mom and said, "Well, I'll gladly be in the 10% and find other 10 percenters." That's how strongly I feel about this. I'm a stickler for consistency and being a man or woman of your word. Like if you say you're gonna do something, I expect you to do it. And if you can't do it, just tell me, hey, I can't do it. Okay, cool. Versus saying that you can do it because you don't want to create a quote unquote awkward moment. Even though it won't be awkward, the awkward moment will be when you don't live up to what you said.
Right.
You telling me you can't do it, that's not awkward at all. I appreciate the honesty.
Right.
So I actually a lot of people, unless they've shown the principles that I live by socially, which is I just gave y'all one of them, consistency. I actually don't let them in my network to start with. And I have these different buffers, like you mentioned, like YouTube and the free content. That's a good example of a buffer. And when someone shows that they have the principles to be in a higher tier, this is when I will pull them into my network, even if they don't have anything quote unquote to offer. In a few years, they probably will, because if they stick with those principles and if they stay consistent, they're going to reach this level anyway. And I would love to pull them up faster. Now, some people listening to me, they could probably vouch for this. Like, I've had people who have wanted to be my friend initially, and I kind of consider them an associate. And then I consider them a friend maybe a year or two later, for the simple fact that I don't make friends extremely fast. It's kind of like a time limit. It's kind of like, yeah, you know what? We probably could be good friends, but we got to put some tenure in there first.
Right.
And if they don't have those principles, they end up getting exposed and they just stay where they're at, as opposed to me pulling them into the friendship thing.
Friendship is a weird thing for me. Growing up, never really had a solid place I stayed for long. And every time I got comfortable with a group of friends, I was yanked out of that school and moved somewhere else, right? So I think that pattern has followed me my whole life. So anytime I start getting too close to people or I get stagnant in a group, I just shake it and start over. Or like I have so many groups and people that I know, but I never like to belong to one group. And here's why. What I've noticed is when you belong to one group of people, there's kind of this level that everyone stays at. Because when someone tries to shine, it's like, wait, you're making us look bad. Come back down. You can't dream that big. Yeah, and like if the group disbands, like think about high school. You were in high school, you had your cliques, you had your, the jocks, the cheerleaders, the band geeks, and all these people that were thick as thieves then. And some people, their glory days are high school. Like they're working their entire life to remember what it was like when they had their group. And the group disbands because, we don't have to be together anymore. We can go explore the world and do what we do. People go off to college, people get in relationships, and then that breaks a person, right? If they have come to depend on that group. And so I like that I never belong to any one group, because that makes me kind of like a chameleon. I can fit in wherever I go. And I don't have to be constrained by any one group of people. It's like I can I can move with the wind wherever I need to go, be my own person, and never be held back by someone else. The only thing standing in my way is me. So when I hear friendship, I'm like, I don't even know what that looks like. Like, there's some people that have been in my life a long time, but like you said, it's because they exhibit values that match up with mine. And so if they can keep up with my crazy, by all means, if they can keep up with and want to be around my crazy, then you've earned the right to be my friend. Because there must be something wrong with you, like there is something wrong with me.
That's the way of putting it.
And everyone's crazy, right? You just have to pick the kind of crazy you're willing to deal with, to put up with. So that's my 2 cents on that. I know you've been going for, looks like 2.5 hours here. You don't have any more questions. I don't want to keep you, because I know when we get on, I keep you with food.
I will say I'll make a final push for anyone that, if they do have a question, drop them in the chat if you want to come on. We can chop it up. But I will say I'll give them a few more minutes, but I'll just finish off on that question. A big reason I put a filter on my network, it's a moment of introspection, but I think that my superpower really is bringing people together, networking, and having a filter, because people in my network, I kind of connect them all the time. But part of the reason that they respect me so much is I don't let just anyone in my network. So I might bring these two people together. A good example is Dijon. You remember he is the audio engineer. We met at Bit Summit, right? I know a rapper named Kendrick, and sometimes he comes to Houston to do a performance. He's opened up for Jadakiss before, and I've had him on the show too. And he would complain about how he has his own studio set up now, but he would say how he stopped going to commercial studios to record his songs because the audio engineers there would usually be trying to run some game on him. Like, hey, that was a good song. You want to take a smoke break and you want to get something to eat. All this is extending the session, so he has to pay them more. Like, well, I see what's going on, so I'm just gonna make my own studio. Well, guess what? Since Dijon is set up in Houston and Kendrick is out there sometimes he might not be at home to record something, and he might need to do something on the fly. I'm getting ready to introduce those two because they're both in my network and they can benefit from each other's services. But the thing is, when I let someone in my network, they've shown that level of consistency to where it's always going to be a good result. So by extension, like, okay, if Elijah hooks me up with someone, it's like it takes the risk out of it because he doesn't let just anyone in his network. Yeah. If I let just anyone in the network, and my nature is just being business Cupid, and they're flaky or something like that, that's gonna look bad on me. And like, yeah, I like that, business Cupid. That's got a ring to it, man. You should run with that. I should put that on some merch.
Yeah, we need a shirt, business Cupid, man.
I'll think about it. I don't know what image it would be. Like, there's the wording, but I don't know what the image would be. I had to play around with that. It could be on the side of the society clothing line. What?
I said it's a cherubim with your face on it. And they're shooting a little arrow with a $sign at the end of it.
So you give me ideas for my birthday party. You should have told me that. But
no.
Yeah, but I will say it looks like we don't have any more questions. Like you said, it's almost 2 hours and 40 minutes, and I actually ate before this, so I'm not hungry, but it is time to start winding down. It is Friday. Either put my feet up on the table and play some Red Dead Redemption 2, or go out, hit the streets, see what I can get involved in. One of those two. I haven't decided on which one. But I want to thank everyone for attending this Financial Freedom Friday. And I'm glad that we covered networking, because a lot of people don't acknowledge the value networking plays in financial freedom, if we're going to be honest. Unless you're going to be some hermit that's going to grow your own food, be like a farmer, then maybe you don't need networking. But aside from that, you're not really going to get financially free without some help along the way. And just some networking, even if it's from an informational perspective. So these networking skills are very valuable, and they tend to transfer to other life areas too. You perfect your networking skills, you'll find that you're better in relationships in general, whether it be friendships, romantic, etc. So it has a spillover effect.
Your network is your net worth. You hear it all the time. I'm living proof that you can literally get rich by changing the people you hang around. You can also mess that up by the words you speak. So network more, get connected with people that can take you where you want to go and help elevate you, and be very careful with the words you choose to use. That's my last nugget there. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Was it Side Hustler Society? I don't even know which one we're on anymore. You got so many channels.
It's the Side Hustler Society.
Subscribe to this channel if you're new, so you can get all the updates and get these nuggets that he is dropping every Friday and beyond. And if you want to follow me, the official G-Wiz on YouTube, and I think it was Question Everything Design, the channel I'm moving everything to with Question Everything. Pre-order the book. I know you saw that in the podcast, but pre-order the book and change your life. You can level up from where you are right now. Nothing needs to change. You just need to apply these principles that are in the book and the greater framework, and you can level up too.
Yeah, that's a good place to end off on. And be sure to check his channel out, because he does podcasts too. You did one earlier today. I believe I saw it's about social media that I'm looking forward to checking out.
Yes, it was really good. It was Nicole Baracco. She is AIM Social, Ready AIM Social, and her story it's beautiful when you talk to someone that came from the same, like, someplace you've been, and they've made it successfully, and you found out they do it by being vulnerable. They do it by just showing up. You said that value, consistency, right? They do it by testing and trying things and just not stopping. And she got a coach. Actually, I'm not even gonna tell you anymore. You got to go check out the episode, because
he gave you the preview. You can check out more by going and look on his channel, most recent episode. And if it's you're watching this later, what's the episode called?
That's a good question. Let me check it out, because I named it something different on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. But you got to go, when you go to the channel, sometimes the gold is buried in the live. If you go to the little tab that says live, it was a live. So look for the live one. Under the live tab, it is called Nicole Baracco's Story from Burnout to Social Media Success.
Gotcha. So y'all check that episode out. And I'm not going to end off without announcing, if you haven't gotten your financial personality report, we spent so much on the topic of sociality. It's good to know where you stand and some exercises you can do to increase that. So you can click the link in the description to get your financial personality report. Find out which one of the 6 financial personalities you are, the strengths, the weaknesses, how to maximize your strengths, and address your weaknesses so that you can achieve financial success. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and get out of here, and we'll catch y'all on the next Financial Freedom Friday.